The Journey of the Mechas. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 26. Hey, you won't be sad, right? Chen Kai turned around, with 2 clear tear marks on her cheeks, and looked at Yang Mu. She was a little surprised, but she saw Yang Mu looking at her affectionately. "Come here," Yang Mu said softly. "Let me protect you. From now on, we will face these things together." Yang Mu didn't know how to express his emotions, but just said everything that came to his mind. "Yang Mu, what did you just say?" Chen Kai looked at Yang Mu with a little confusion on her face and asked. Yang Mu could only take a deep breath, look at Chen Kai again, and say word by word, "Kater, I said, in the future, be my girlfriend." Yang Mu mustered up all his courage and finally said this sentence that he had brewed in his heart countless times. He looked at Chen Kai with hope and affection. Chen Kai was surprised and covered her mouth with her hands. The expression on her face became excited again. She took a few steps back, turned around, and turned her back to Yang Mu. "Kater, I'm telling the truth." Yang Mu saw Chen Kai turned around, not knowing what Chen Kai's attitude was, and hurriedly added. Yang Mu, who had never been in a relationship except Chen Kai, really didn't know how to deal with such a situation. Chen Kai turned around. Her heart was actually full of emotion, because this was the sentence she had been waiting for a long time. She could no longer control her tears, turned around, and tears flowed from her eyes again, stayed on her hands, and then dripped on the ground. Chen Kai's right hand tightly grasped the fence. Even though she heard it clearly, she couldn't believe the situation in front of her. "Kater." Seeing that Chen Kai didn't reply to him, Yang Mu wanted to walk closer to ask about Chen Kai's situation, but Chen Kai stretched out her hand to stop Yang Mu's action. Straightening up, Chen Kai turned her back to Yang Mu, raised her head, sniffed hard a few times, wiped the tears on her face, and slowly turned around. "Yang Mu." Chen Kai glanced at Yang Mu, then lowered her head. "I'm sorry. Can we be good friends?" Yang Mu saw Chen Kai turned around, thinking that she was finally going to answer his question, but what he waited for was such a sentence. The surprise expression on Yang Mu's face solidified in the next moment. "Why? Kater." Yang Mu wanted to know why anxiously, and wanted to explain something, but he couldn't say it. He thought that he was well prepared, and he thought that he could take on this responsibility. He thought that he would get Chen Kai's consent. He thought everything in the past would not repeat itself. But these 3 words again, these 3 words that Yang Mu never wanted to hear again in his life. At this moment, Yang Mu felt his head buzzing, and the world became a little dizzy. "Yang Mu, are you okay?" Chen Kai saw Yang Mu standing there in a daze, and asked with concern. Seeing Yang Mu looking at him, Chen Kai forced a smile on his face, looked at Yang Mu, and said, "Yang Mu, I know you may not be able to accept it, but this is really the answer I can give you." "Why?" Yang Mu asked in a daze. "Your path and my path will not intertwine. There is no possibility for us." Chen Kai tried to make her expression as natural as possible. She moved to look at the night view under the rooftop, put her hands behind her back, turned around again, and looked at Yang Mu who was standing there. "Hey, Yang Mu, you won't be sad, will you?" Yang Mu lowered his head. His eyes suddenly lost focus, and he glanced around randomly. He didn't dare to look Chen Kai in the eye, nor did he answer Chen Kai's questions. Originally, at this moment, in his imagination, he should have hugged Chen Kai excitedly, but now, he never thought that this scene would happen. Yang Mu bent down and pretended to be busy cleaning up the messy table. Seeing that Yang Mu didn't speak, Chen Kai thought he was angry, and the expression on her face became firmer. She walked in front of Yang Mu, grabbed Yang Mu's sleeve and asked Yang Mu to look at her. Yang Mu held the cup in his hand, but he didn't dare to look at Chen Kai. He turned his head to the side, and there were some tears in his eyes. These were not tears of frustration from a failed confession, but Yang Mu was thinking that he had planned so many things, and that the day he thought they would come true, reality slapped him hard in the face. He had tried to modify what Chen Kai had left behind, but he had not expected to fail at the first step. That meant that 8 years later, Chen Kai would still die on that cruise ship, and then he would have to endure the double torture of loneliness and heartache again? Yang Mu was unwilling. Chen Kai looked at the depressed Yang Mu, grinned, thinking that the other party was still struggling, So he pouted his mouth slightly and said to Yang Mu, "Okay, Yang Mumu, we are still good friends, aren't we?" Yang Mu may have figured something out, and suddenly turned his head to look at Chen Kai, staring straight at Chen Kai, and said, "Kair, can you give me another chance, opportunity?" "What opportunity?" Chen Kai asked with some doubts, but immediately understood and said helplessly, "Okay, Yang Mumu, can't we be best friends?" Yang Mu shook his head firmly and said to Chen Kai firmly, "Kair, give me another chance, let me pursue you again." Yang Mu said this nakedly, his eyes were burning, and his tone was firm and unquestionable. Chen Kai didn't even think of a rebuttal for a moment. "Just once, give me another chance. If you refuse me again, we will." Yang Mu's throat moved, and he said that sentence very reluctantly. "Let's be best friends." Chen Kai looked at Yang Mu's eyes in his firm expression, and her heart was also shaken. In fact, she didn't reject the boy in front of her. In her eyes, he was so shining, but he still had a beautiful tomorrow and a more brilliant life. With her identity, if she agreed, would it become a stumbling block for him? But really not giving him a chance? Or, giving herself a chance? Chen Kai fell into silence, lowered her head, not knowing how to answer. Looking at Chen Kai, who was hesitating, the stone in Yang Mu's heart was raised to his throat, hoping to hear a different answer from Chen Kai. After a moment, Chen Kai spoke timidly. "Well, I'll give you this opportunity," Chen Kai said, and Yang Mu's eyes slowly widened. But there are conditions," Chen Kai added. Yang Mu's relaxed brows gradually frowned again. What conditions?" Chen Kai looked up at Yang Mu and said seriously, "That is, you have to promise me that next time you want to use this opportunity, you must achieve something." When Yang Mu heard Chen Kai's words, the stone in his heart fell down again. He breathed a sigh of relief, a light flashed in his eyes, and he grabbed Chen Kai's shoulders. "You mean, if I achieve something, Kair, will you promise me?" Chen Kai looked at the excited Yang Mu and said nothing. It was considered a tacit agreement. As long as it is different from the original trajectory, there are more possibilities. Yang Mu's heart suddenly seemed to bloom like a flower, and the previous feeling of loss was swept away. At this moment, he just wanted to hug Chen Kai and cheer loudly. But Yang Mu held back, just smiling and looking at Chen Kai. Chen Kai also smiled, and her two little canine teeth flashed again, adding a touch of beauty to the night of Halen City. Today, for Yang Mu, it was already a completely different day. "Oslo, please collect this bowl. Please recommend it to prolong your life." Chapter 27 Drawings. After hearing Chen Kai's answer, Yang Mu's mood finally improved a little, and he helped her clean up the mess on the rooftop. "Hey, you live alone, remember to lock the door." Standing downstairs of the apartment, Yang Mu looked at Chen Kai and said, "Oh, I know, Hero Mu, go back quickly. If you don't go back, it will be over." Chen Kai smiled and urged Yang Mu to go back. "I won't let you stay overnight with me." Yang Mu pursed his lips and looked at Chen Kai carefully again. "I will come to see you often." Yang Mu said this with some reluctance, and finally left the apartment with reluctance under Chen Kai's repeated urging, and walked towards home alone. Chen Kai stood at the door of the apartment, watching Yang Mu disappear around the corner. The smile on her face gradually turned into a little disappointment, turned around, carried the big bear that Yang Mu gave her, went upstairs, and returned to her room. That night, Chen Kai had a dream. She dreamed that the two of them walked into the palace of marriage hand in hand and lived happily. On Sunday morning, Yang Mu got up early as usual, did some exercise in the community, and then went home to eat breakfast. Yang Mu and his mother suggested that they could occasionally buy breakfast outside in the morning so that his mother could occasionally sleep in, but this proposal was rejected by Yang's mother, because since she became a housewife, she rarely let Yang Mu eat breakfast outside. Even after Yang Mu joined the army, Yang's mother did the same, making breakfast for the family every day for decades. In the morning, Yang Mu stayed in the room alone, doing homework and reviewing lessons that he had not seen for a long time. Today is May 6th, and there is only 1 month left before the college entrance examination. No matter what, Yang Mu has to make plans for his college entrance examination. In the afternoon, after finishing the homework to be done, Yang Mu locked himself in the utility room in the backyard as usual, holding the scrap parts he just brought back from the repair shop after lunch, and continued to repair the great cause of Annihilation. In fact, since he knew that the Annihilation in front of him had some different functions the night before, Yang Mu was very interested in finding something different, because Yang Mu always felt that the different situations that appeared on Annihilation were just the tip of the iceberg. There might be more different things that he had not discovered yet. Although this mecha in front of him has been with him for 5 or 6 years, if it was before, he could even pat his chest and guarantee that he knew every part of Annihilation like the back of his hand. But since the night before, Yang Mu no longer thought so, but instead took a closer look at the familiar yet unfamiliar old friend in front of him. Because of so many unusual functions, Yang Mu was surprised and confused at the same time. Yang Mu first put some parts on the back armor of Annihilation to let it slowly absorb and repair, and at the same time took some parts in his hand to test other armored parts of the mecha to see if other places would also have such a situation. But the result was not. After trying for a long time, the rest of the mecha was still the same, and the worn-out parts did not show any abnormality even when they were close to the armor for a long time. At first, Yang Mu thought it was a problem with the material, and tried several times with parts of different materials, but in the end it was the same, and there was no change in the rest of the mecha. Yang Mu had to give up. It seems that the armor of Annihilation should only absorb materials to complement when it is damaged, and the rest will not absorb autonomously. After getting this preliminary conclusion, Yang Mu put the various parts in his hand on the back armor of Annihilation one after another, letting it absorb itself. After consuming so many materials, the back of Annihilation did not disappoint Yang Mu's expectations, and the damaged parts were still repaired by about 30%. Yang Mu was very satisfied to see this situation. But today Yang Mu wants to try other parts of the mecha again. Yang Mu opened the cockpit of the mecha and stood in the straight cylinder cockpit again. After following the same steps as last time, the green lines in the universal fixed ring reappeared, then coiled around his whole body, and finally gathered in Yang Mu's 2 eye sockets, allowing Yang Mu to regain the same visual experience as last time. Yang Mu temporarily called this kind of vision the mecha vision. After feeling the fit of the mecha operation, Yang Mu stopped, because this time Yang Mu did not want to continue testing the flexibility of the mecha, but wanted to see if there were other new things in the mecha that he had not discovered. At this time, Yang Mu was like a child who got a new toy, constantly exploring the various parts inside. During this period, Yang Mu also discovered an interesting thing, that is, these green lines on his body are actually completely controlled by his own thinking. When he wanted to exit the mecha vision in his mind, the green lines would retract from the eye sockets, and his vision would naturally switch to the scene inside the cabin. While Yang Mu couldn't help but admire this magical function, he also ignited a stronger interest in the mecha. After touching the cockpit, Yang Mu did not find anything different. At this time, Yang Mu noticed a folding screen in front of him, so he reached out and operated the flexible fiber auxiliary display screen inside the mecha. Although the Annihilation mecha is one of the most outstanding achievements of PAJR industry, due to the top-secret nature of this mecha itself, the mecha is not equipped with advanced intelligent auxiliary programs, only simple command programs and action auxiliary programs, and the rest of the steps all need to be operated manually by the driver. Yang Mu poked the display screen with his fingers, swiped across the upper display screen, and searched for things inside. Detailed explanation of mecha combat skills, mecha battlefield maintenance manual, mecha weapon temporary replacement operation, mecha self-destruction program operation. Yang Mu flipped down little by little, and finally found something different in the mecha database. There seemed to be an extra file in the middle section of the storage area. Yang Mu was not sure if he had seen it wrong, but he clicked it immediately. After repeatedly clicking on several file packages, Yang Mu seemed to find something different, that is, in the innermost folder. When he clicked on it, all the pictures appeared. Yang Mu tried to click on one, but the picture did not expand. However, the system automatically popped up a light and scanned Yang Mu's eyes again. Yang Mu was feeling a little confused when another voice came from the system. The pupil pattern scan passed, and the picture expanded. The next moment, the expression on Yang Mu's face became surprised again, and his eyes even became a little dazed. The flexible screen projected a three-dimensional picture in the cockpit, which turned out to be a virtual model of a starship. Yang Mu looked at the virtual model intently, hoping to see what type of starship it was. But after looking at it carefully for a while, Yang Mu found that he seemed to have never seen this type of starship before. Although this huge ship model is somewhat similar to PAJR's most advanced Huangdi-class interstellar carrier, the design of the bow and the design of the stern are completely different. The Huangdi-class interstellar carrier is a super battleship that is one size larger than the Andy-class interstellar carrier. Before Yang Mu was reborn, the Huangdi-class super battleship was the most advanced top battleship of PAJR, but PAJR tried its best and only built 5 ships, all of which were driven by the captains with the most experience. The young Yang Mu was naturally not qualified to be the captain. But if you haven't eaten pork, have you seen pigs run? Yang Mu was envious at the time, and he also made a careful understanding of the Huangdi-class battleship through the basic data published by the military network. The Huangdi-class battleship is a typical attack-type combat mothership. The bow platform is 2 antimatter cannons, and the stern is neatly arranged with 2 rows and 9 columns of 18 super-powered engines as the power to propel the starship. Although the model in front of him is exactly the same as the Huangdi class in the middle of the ship, there is no trace of the cannon at the bow. Instead, it is a double-layer structure design, with the upper layer being a lifting platform and the lower layer being an extension platform. It seems to be used as a launch platform for space fighters or space mechas. At the rear of the ship, there are also 2 independent engine components, each with 4 larger caliber engines. This means that the main function of the interstellar mothership in front of him is to serve as a platform for launching fighters and mechas, but as far as Yang Mu knows, this design was abolished long ago in the interstellar era. The reason is that in interstellar wars, the battles between interstellar fleets are mainly based on long-range bombardment and jump-to-close-range blitzkrieg. This combat method requires each starship to have sufficient combat power and defense. The launch platform can be interspersed on large starships. However, this single launch platform has low defense power and cannot withstand the opponent's artillery bombardment. Even if there are ships guarding it, it will only become a burden and difficult to provide assistance. In the interstellar war, all of this has been verified, and all countries have begun to embark on a path of combining starship firepower and launch platforms, while ensuring the maximization of their own battlefield advantages. It also makes the starship have a stronger survivability. Yang Mu tried to enlarge the starship in front of him, and was surprised to find that he could clearly see the internal structure of the starship model. This is simply a super detailed 3-dimensional design. But he clearly remembered that his mecha had never had such a thing, and such a thing would never appear on Yang Mu's mecha. That is to say, such a thing is also an extra thing from Annihilation. God's hand has made a change again. Yang Mu was immersed in the shock of the starship drawings that came from nowhere for a long time. Fatty called. Fatty called. Fatty called. Just when Yang Mu wanted to click on the second picture, the sound of the smartwatch on Yang Mu's hand suddenly rang, interrupting Yang Mu's thoughts. Yang Mu lowered his head and clicked to answer. Mouse, what's wrong? I'm Yu. The voice on the other end of the phone was not Jiahao's voice, but the cold voice of Yu. Putting bowls to ask for collection, asking for votes. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 28 Anxiety. Yu, hearing that the voice on the other end of the phone was not Jiahao's, and revealing his identity, Yang Mu frowned. Yu called him at this time, and used Jiahao's mobile phone? Where's Aozi? Yang Mu asked immediately. I want to talk to him. Yang Mu stood in the cockpit of the mecha, thinking that Jiahao had been treated by Yu. Otherwise, why would he use Jiahao's mobile phone to call him? But Yu on the other side did not respond to Yang Mu's words, but said to himself, I underestimated you. I didn't expect you really have a way. Yang Mu was even more confused, and didn't quite understand what the other party meant. I'm talking about the Green Ghost Gang, Yu added at this time. Yang Mu now knew Yu's purpose, but still didn't understand why he used Jiahao's watch to be on Yu's hand, and why Yu called him, and what happened to Jiahao now. Did you promise me not to get involved in this? Also, how is Jiahao now? Yang Mu asked seriously, his tone cold. There was no answer from the other side, but Jiahao's voice came. Hello. Yang Mu heard it. It was Jiahao's voice. Hello, Mu Shui, it's me, I'm fine, Jiahao said in a somewhat unhappy tone, which made Yang Mu relieved. This guy came to my house by himself and asked me to call you. I didn't call, so he snatched it away by himself, and I couldn't beat him. At this time, Jiahao's impatient voice came from the phone. Hey, why did you snatch my watch? The voice on the other side fell silent again, and Yuan Qiu's voice sounded again after more than 10 seconds. I didn't ruin your plan, I just wanted to ask you a question. When Yang Mu learned that Jiahao was fine and the other party did not use any despicable means to ruin his own affairs, he immediately put his mind at ease and said, "What's the problem?" Yuan Qiu on the other side seemed to hesitate for a moment, and asked, "It seems that the police and the military are preparing to strike the Green Ghost Gang tonight. Why don't you go and take a look?" Yang Mu's face flashed with doubt again. "Why should I go and take a look? Do you want to eat carrots?" Yang Mu was a little confused and wanted to hang up the phone, but he didn't expect Yuan Qiu to suddenly say something. "I thought you would go and kill the guy who drove your friend's family away with your own hands." Yang Mu raised his eyebrows. "I'm not in the mood." "It won't matter if I go," Yang Mu said nonchalantly, but his heart was moved. As a city named after a planet, the night of Halen City is always the most prosperous on the entire planet. Even though it is dusk now, the lights are on, and the huge city has already been brightly lit, showing the prosperity of the world. But tonight, in the Pangolin district of the West District of Halen City, there is silence. Compared with the prosperity of the surrounding blocks, the depressing atmosphere here makes people feel a little breathless. People who live here may find that since yesterday morning, there are often some people walking around on the street. Although they try their best to dress up, they are all young and strong men, which makes it easy for people to see the flaws. Dong Kun is one of the people who saw the flaws. Since yesterday morning, Dong Kun felt something was wrong. People coming and going on the street, but they are all unfamiliar faces, which made Dong Kun, the cunning fox, feel a little uneasy. But now, Dong Kun, who is in his prime, can only sit on the sofa in the bar hall and smoke non-stop, and his feet have unknowingly scattered cigarette ashes all over the ground. Dong Kun is the leader of the Green Ghost Gang and also the owner of this bar. The Green Ghost Gang, which has been thriving in Zichen district in the past few months, is now in an unprecedented predicament. He and his gang members are restricted to this block. As long as the main members of the gang go out, they will be knocked unconscious within half an hour and thrown back to the door of the bar. The door of the bar used for gatherings was now closed. A group of gang members had gathered here, sitting in scattered places, looking at Dong Kun. "Brother, we can't wait any longer," a rough voice suddenly sounded in the silent bar. A thin young man wearing a flowered shirt and earrings walked in, looking at Dong Kun sitting on the sofa with some anxiety on his face. "I don't think Bloodskull will come to save us. If we stay here like this, we will just sit and wait for death." This man is Dong Kun's younger brother, Dong Pen. If Victor was here at this time, he would definitely recognize this thin man immediately, because it was him who attacked at his own construction site and accidentally killed a worker. Dong Kun looked up at his brother, then lowered his gaze, continued to smoke, and remained silent. Dong Kun was frantically thinking about countermeasures in his mind at this time. Since he found something wrong yesterday morning, Dong Peng sent his younger brothers out to ask for help, but there has been no news so far. The gang leaders would be knocked unconscious and sent back, while the younger brothers would disappear like a stone sinking into the sea, never to be seen again. The people of the Bloodskull also disappeared yesterday. With so many years of experience in the underworld, Dong Kun naturally understood the reason. They were using their own people as bait, hoping to find the whereabouts of the Bloodskull Brotherhood through them. The Bloodskull is now his life-saving straw. Even if he doesn't even know where this straw is now, he still has to find it. Speaking of the Bloodskull, Dong Kun also regretted making a deal with them and ended up like this. A few months ago, a man came here and said that he could help the Green Ghost Gang, which was squeezed out by various gangs in the surrounding blocks at that time, get out of trouble. He was desperate at the time, so he agreed to the other party's conditions. After that, the other party sent many people with second and third level physiques to join the gang one after another. Only then did he know that the other party was the notorious Bloodskull Brotherhood. But at that time, the gang had been basically controlled by the other party, and he was just a boss who was sidelined. And since his brother accidentally killed a worker at a nearby construction site last time and exposed the affairs of the Bloodskull Brotherhood, Dong Kun gave everything he had to the Bloodskull Brotherhood, which prevented the Bloodskull Brotherhood from doing anything to his brother. But correspondingly, although he was still the leader of the gang on the surface, many of them were lured and seduced. I guess there are not many people in the bar who listen to him now. Dong Kun's mind was blank, and he didn't know what to do at all. seeing his brother sitting there without saying anything. Dongpeng couldn't hold his temper. He walked straight to Dongkun, pulled out the cigarette in Dongkun's hand, and said impatiently, "Brother, it's already this time, and the brothers are still waiting for your reply." Dongkun looked up at his brother, and suddenly became angry. He stood up and slapped Dongpeng hard. Dongpeng stumbled back after being hit, and was supported by the younger brother next to him. Dongpeng covered his left face, unable to believe that his brother had slapped him inexplicably at this time. "Brother, you..." The younger brothers next to him also looked over, not knowing what their boss was going to do. "Look at the situation now. It's all because of you." Dongkun stared at Dongpeng and said loudly, "If it weren't for you, would there be so many things happening outside now? The guys outside are not the police from the surrounding areas at all. These cops outside are waiting to take you and my life." Dongkun was certainly not stupid enough to think that these cops outside were just here to arrest his brother. Last time, Dongpeng beat someone to death and exposed the existence of the Blood Skull. What is the Blood Skull? It is the #1 enemy of the Aquamarine Star Army. Deadly enemy. He and others are now equivalent to running into the muzzle of a gun. This is a dead end. Those people outside are evidence. He and everyone else will die under the muzzle of the Aquamarine Star Army. And all this, it has something to do with his reckless and unbridled brother. The Green Ghost Gang, which he had worked so hard to run for a long time, was going to be destroyed just like that. It was all because of his own greed. How can you blame me? Did you want to cooperate with the Blood Skull? Dongpeng was not to be outdone. He spat and directly confronted his brother. The two brothers were fighting against each other. Neither of them gave in. "You." "Damn." Dongkun pointed at Dongpeng, stomped his feet in frustration, and kicked over the coffee table beside him. Turning around, Dongkun looked at the scene outside the window next to him, worried. Today, it seems that it is really going to be a fight to the death. Squeak! At this time, the back door of the bar suddenly opened, and a man in a peaked cap walked into the bar. Everyone in the bar turned their heads to look, and some people showed a hint of joy on their faces. "Oh, why do brothers have to fight so much?" the man said jokingly, slowly raising his head, revealing a face with a black skull tattoo. Chapter 29 Cam. Hearing this somewhat evil voice, Dongkun turned around suddenly, with a little surprise and anger on his face. Camus, the man with the skull tattoo in front of Dongkun, was a member of the Blood Skull Brotherhood, and it was this guy who dragged his Green Ghost Gang into the abyss step by step. I have been looking for them for so long, and now this guy finally showed up. Camus. You finally showed up. Dongpeng looked at the curly-haired tattooed man in front of him with a cold face and said through gritted teeth. The curly-haired man named Camus walked to the sofa next to him and sat down without caring. He used the nail of his little finger to pick the gap between his teeth, flicked his fingers, then crossed his legs and glanced around the bar. Tisk, 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 look at how depressed you are, it's really ugly, Camus still said jokingly, completely ignoring the emotions of Dongkun and Dongpeng, who were already on the verge of exploding next to him. Damn, Dongpeng couldn't help it at this time. Although Dongpeng was small in stature, he was famous for his hot temper. Seeing that the other party was still calm and relaxed, Dongpeng was furious. He immediately pulled out the gauze pistol from his waist, opened the safety and pointed it at Cam, who was sitting on the sofa. Cam's face was not rippled. Instead, he glanced at the angry Dongpeng calmly, and then glanced at Dongkun, who was standing by the window. Dongkun certainly saw his brother's actions, but he did not make any obstruction or mediation. If it were before, Dongkun would definitely keep his tail between his legs in front of Cam for his brother in the gang. But now, Dongkun has made up his mind. If he can get away by chance this time, Dongkun decided to take Dongpeng away from the new star domain and go to any star domain that can be far away from the Blood Skull. Thinking of this, Dongkun shifted his sight to Cam, who was sitting on the sofa again. Camus, you'd better have a way, otherwise. Dongkun's face gradually darkened. Dongpeng turned his head to look at his brother, knowing that when his brother looked at him like this, he basically had the intention to kill. This guy in front of him really made his brother angry. Ha, ha ha ha, ha ha ha. Just when the atmosphere in the bar became gunpowder heavy, Cam, who was sitting on the sofa, suddenly laughed out loud, making Dongpeng, who was standing next to him with a gun, feel a little irritated. Everyone looked at the man sitting on the sofa and laughed unscrupulously, not knowing why. But the next moment, the smile on Cam's face gradually disappeared, and Cam looked at Dongpeng with evil eyes pointing at his gun, and waved his hand violently. Dongpeng was frightened by Cam's action, so he subconsciously retracted his hand, but saw that his favorite gold-plated pistol was broken into 2 pieces, and the cross-section was extremely smooth. Dongpeng unconsciously took a few steps back. Cam, who was sitting on the sofa, was playing with a small knife in his hand that was shining with bright silver light, and looked at Dongkun standing by the window with an evil smile. What else? Cam smiled and walked towards Dongkun. Do you want to kill me? Cam looked at Dongkun with his sharp eyes, and the smile on his face became even more unruly. Just you. Cam held the knife in his hand, put it on the shoulder of Dongkun's suit, and said to Dongkun in his ear, "Do you believe that I can kill you all in a minute, and save those cops outside the door from doing it?" Dongkun was silent at this time, looking at Cam, and then looking away. Seeing Dongkun lowered his head and didn't speak, Carter stood up proudly and turned his head to look at the gang members in the bar with different expressions. Don't be afraid. Cam played with a knife and walked slowly to the center of the bar. I know everyone is worried now, worried that their lives will be explained here, but there is a saying that everyone will die one day. Cam stood still, fiddled with the blade with his thumb, and said with a wicked smile, "But I promise that no one here will die today." Cam scanned everyone present again and said loudly, "Because I brought you 10 heavy exoskeletons. 10 iron bulls. 10 powerful weapons for war." As soon as Cam said this, everyone in the field immediately perked up. Mechanical exoskeletons. Although there are 3 or 4 mechanical exoskeletons in the gang, they are all civilian modified products, and now Cam has brought 10, and they are all military grade. There is no doubt that everyone's heart is burning with hope of life at this moment. Cam looked at the people whispering in the field, walked to the back door of the bar, kicked open the wooden door, and revealed 10 exoskeletons covered by canvas in the backyard. Everyone's floating hearts suddenly had about him. Now, I need 10 warriors to wear these 10 battle armors and work with me to open a way out for all the brothers. Cam changed his evil temperament just now. At this moment, his face was firm, he raised his clenched fists, and encouraged the people present in a fierce tone. The place suddenly fell into silence again. Everyone looked at each other, but no one stood up. Seeing that no one stood up, Cam spoke again. I promise these 10 people that after this incident, they will be members of our Blood Skull Brotherhood. This sentence made some people have some ideas. Okay. I'll do it. At this time, the first person in the bar to respond to Cam was Dongpeng, who had just pointed a gun at Cam. Under his leadership, people joined in one after another. After a while, the morale of the gang members in the whole bar was high, and each of them felt that they had won. The next is the breakout mission. Later, Cam struck while the iron was hot and revealed the breakout plan, which once again boosted the confidence of the people in the place. So next, let's have a few drinks together, and then kill those lackeys outside without leaving a single piece of armor. Okay. The voices in the bar rose one after another, and their confidence was high. Dongkun, who was standing by the window, looked at everything in the bar, but the expression on his face could not stop being lonely. Is it really as simple as Cam said? When everyone was immersed in the big pie Cam had drawn, Dongkun saw the sly smile on Cam's face. But even if Cam had other plans, what could he do? When his subordinates heard the news, they did not look at his attitude first, but directly responded to the other party's call. As the boss, he should actually be a dispensable role. Dongkun's heart as the boss is dead, and his last bit of emotion for the Green Ghost Gang has been slowly worn away. But Dongkun will not say it now, because now he still has to rely on them to escape from here. As for his overly hot-blooded brother, he just needs to pay more attention later. Hold him at the critical moment, and go together. Alice, Dongkun walked back to the sofa and sat down in a somewhat depressed manner, lighting a new cigarette. Unlike the lively atmosphere next to him, Dongkun lowered his head and smoked silently. Boss, don't add chopped green onions. On the Aoheo Street, a few blocks away from the Pangolin Street, Yang Mu sat down with a bowl of duck blood vermicelli that had just been made from a small stall. While slurping the vermicelli in the bowl, he glanced at a few men who were gathered together not far away and talking about something. It seems that this place has indeed been arranged and controlled by the government, and the people in front of him are the evidence. I just don't know if these people are police or military personnel. The reason why Yang Mu still appeared here was not entirely because of Yu Wenqiu's last words. Seeing the demise of the Green Ghost Gang with his own eyes sounds very exciting, but for Yang Mu, this kind of victory is in his grasp. The overall situation has been decided. What is there to be excited about? But Yang Mu had a deeper reason, that is, he hoped to see the members of the Bloodskull Brotherhood here. Yang Mu believed that a Bloodskull would not be so stupid. After exposing himself here last time, the Bloodskull would not be so stupid as not to think of changing places. A cunning rabbit has 3 burrows, let alone a Bloodskull. Of course, the military may have considered these things, but Yang Mu couldn't help but want to take a look. It's better to be afraid of 10,000 than 10,000. Now it seems that the net will be closed tonight at the latest. Wait until it gets completely dark. I think the Pangolin Street 2 blocks away will be very lively. Yang Mu picked up the cup next to him and drank a sip of water, and then continued to finish the duck blood vermicelli in front of him. Chapter 30 Action at Night. Hula, a man in a shirt carrying a large bag of lunchboxes, walked into a room in an apartment on the corner of the street, and then closed the door casually. In the room, it was a different scene at this time. There were several rows of tables and stools in the huge room. The floating projector projected many surveillance angles on the screen, some of which were set up by merchants, some by snipers, and even some were taken by drones. It seemed that this was a temporary command center, and it was now staring at the bar at number 49 in Pangolin Street. On the sofa in the corner of the room, a man in a sweatshirt was sitting face to face with a man in a PAJR military uniform, and they seemed to be chatting about something. "Captain Sue, you won't think I'm talking nonsense now, right?" The strong man in the sweatshirt handed the report in his hand to the man in military uniform next to him, and said with some interest. This strong man was the bodyguard next to Yan Shenfu, Zhong Liang. The young officer with a crew cut sitting next to him took the report handed over by Zhong Liang, opened it and read it carefully, and nodded. "Colonel Zhang, it seems that we have found something about a Bloodskull this time," the head of the Su family said excitedly with a gleam in his eyes. "Haha, it's good that the news is correct. At least no resources were wasted on the investigation. I believe that with the participation of your mecha regiment, this eradication mission will be much easier." Zhong Liang laughed loudly and praised the young officer in front of him, who was still young, but already the head of the regiment. This officer was called Su Wang, the head of the 1st Mecha Regiment of the Aquamarine, which was the Mecha Regiment where Yang Mu's father served. And this time, they followed the police track together because of Yan Shenfu's request and the collection of various intelligence. Finally, the military issued an order to let Su Wang bring the Mecha Regiment here to stand by. But there were not many people on the surface. This was a joint military and police operation. It was just a police operation, because Su Wang's Mecha Regiment was deployed 1 kilometer away from here and was on standby at any time. As long as the order is given, these most elite mecha pilots of the Aquamarine will drive various advanced mechas to support the battlefield at a rapid speed and eliminate all unstable factors. No, although we have traces of the enemy, we still can't take it lightly. The enemy is our mortal enemy. We have not been able to uproot it for so many years. The Bloodskull Brotherhood will not be eliminated so easily. We haven't seen any Bloodskull personnel recorded in the database yet. We can't act rashly for the time being. Su Wang was not proud at all, but said it very seriously, with a serious attitude on his young face. No wonder he can be the leader of a mecha regiment at the age of less than 30. And he's the leader of this elite mecha regiment. Zhong Liang looked at the serious leader in front of him. He also came from the military and agreed with this sentence. At the same time, he also admired this young man in his heart. The commander-in-chief of this operation is also the young officer in front of him. Even though Zhong Liang's military rank is a little higher, he doesn't want to interfere too much in this matter. His main task is just to help old Yan transmit the message. Let professionals handle the rest. Okay. I don't have time to interfere with your operations. I'll leave this matter to you. I have to go back. Zhong Liang stood up, shook hands with Su Wang, said hello to the other policemen in the room, and then pushed the door and left. In fact, Yan Shenfu asked Zhong Liang to come here today to verify whether what the young man said was true. Now it seems that the boy was right. Zhong Liang, who originally didn't care about Yang Mu and even looked down on him, was very interested in Yang Mu at this time. How did a high school student know all this? The clock slowly moved to 10 o'clock. The sky had completely darkened. The streets of Pangolin were already empty. Even the wildcats on the roadside had just quietly left. The whole street was filled with a solemn atmosphere. In the bar at number 49, everyone's eyes were wide open at this moment, and in the middle of the bar, 10 people were wearing nearly 3-meter exoskeletons, fully armed to the teeth. Cam sat at the bar, playing with his knife, with a smile on his face. Camu, is it time to act now? Dongpeng, who was wearing an exoskeleton, looked at Cam and Dongkun, who were sitting on the chair and sofa without saying anything, and said, in Dongpeng's opinion, staying in this place for one more minute would increase the danger, so leaving as soon as possible would allow everyone to escape from danger. Hearing Dongpeng's words, Dongkun took the last puff of his cigarette, exhaled the last trace of smoke in his chest, and extinguished the cigarette butt on the foot of the overturned coffee table. Cam also stood up at this time, put away the knife, and said with a smile on his face, let's start, my big boss, do you want to say a few words? Dongkun waved his hand and ignored Cam, but walked to the equipment rack in the corner and began to wear a mecha that he had collected for a long time. Although some low-performance mechas were open for commercial and entertainment use, each one was registered. Dongkun's mecha was made by someone in private, and it cost a lot of money. It was also used as a trump card. Now is the time to use this trump card. The gang members in the bar were also alert at this time. They picked up their weapons one by one and pulled the safety catch. The sound of guns being loaded suddenly rang out in the bar. The 10 people wearing heavy exoskeletons also checked all their equipment and looked at Cam. Is everyone clear about the specific plan? I'll say it again. After the 10 heavy exoskeletons follow me out of the backyard, they will go to Millen Street in the north, and the rest of you will follow your boss to the west. Finally, meet at the Guangxi gas station in the west. Do you understand? Everyone nodded, and Cam also nodded with satisfaction. He took out his weapon, opened the door first, and walked out. 10 exoskeletons followed Cam out of the backyard and walked to the east. A moment later, dozens of Green Ghost gang members holding guns also went out and walked to the west. Dongkun controlled the mecha and walked at the end of the team. He looked back at Cam and others who had disappeared at the end of the street corner, and told the gang members to go to their destination and walked back. Before he took a few steps, gunshots rang out from the east, and several bright searchlights suddenly lit up on the surrounding rooftops, making the streets with only dim street lights even brighter. The lively night began. Chapter 31, Destruction. When a volley of tracer bullets passed through the night and sparked on Dongpeng's Iron Bull heavy exoskeleton armor, Dongpeng realized that he and his team had already confronted the police. Almost at the moment of the gunshot, several searchlights on the roofs of the surrounding buildings emitted dazzling light and hit Dongpeng and his team. More than 200 meters away from Dongpeng and his team, 2 rows of policemen built a temporary position and began to focus fire on Dongpeng and his team. The team that had just turned the corner and walked a short distance was completely exposed to the opponent's firepower. There was no way to stop it and no way to retreat. Dongpeng was quick-witted and broke the door of the house next door and rushed into it, but found that there was no one in it. The police had already temporarily transferred the surrounding residents before launching the attack. Commanding his men to enter the house, Dongpeng looked into the crowd, hoping to get Cam's next command order, but found that Cam was no longer in the team. Everyone come in, where's Cam? Dongpeng stood at the window, firing back with a machine gun on the shoulder of the Iron Bull exoskeleton, while asking the subordinates around him about Cam's whereabouts. Everyone turned their heads to look, and only then did they realize that Cam, who had just led the team in front, had disappeared. Boom! Just as everyone looked at each other in horror, a gang member who had not yet entered the room and was operating the exoskeleton at the door was unfortunately hit by a bullet from the police at the corner of the street, and his chest armor was penetrated. He fell straight down, and the exoskeleton knocked down the street lamp next to it. The current surged, detonating the high-energy battery behind it, and suddenly a huge explosion sounded, and flames shot up into the sky. Brother Peng, Cam is gone. Then, what should we do now? A bald younger brother next to him looked at Dongpeng nervously and asked, and several people around him also looked over, waiting for Dongpeng to make a decision. Dongpeng was still a little panicked in the face of such an emergency, but he still forced himself to calm down and said to everyone, "Hold on, everyone. Our mission is to attract firepower so that our brothers can escape. As long as we hold on for a while, we can leave. Hold on, everyone," Dongpeng said loudly to everyone in the room. But obviously, the people in front of him were already panicking. They were willing to act as such baits because they could join the Bloodskull Brotherhood after escaping. But now, Cam is gone, and the person who said he would lead everyone out is gone. The people in front of them are just a bunch of rabble, not trained iron-blooded soldiers. They have exhausted their brotherhood in their hearts to be able to come with courage. At this moment, everyone's expression is very uneasy. Although they are shooting against a room, some people are already shaking with fear, and even the exoskeleton can't be operated. Dongpeng naturally saw all this, and his heart was even more angry. These guys who usually drink and brag without any bottom line are now like cowards. What a bunch of waste. Dongpeng was furious, but he would not vent his anger on these people. He could only operate the 2 machine guns on the exoskeleton and roared to attack the defense line built by the police in the distance. Perhaps infected by Dongpeng's momentum, the gangsters around him calmed down a little, and also roared and poured firepower on the distant target. For a while, the two sides fought fiercely. But before a while, Dongpeng suddenly noticed something wrong. The police's firepower was not equipped with any heavy firepower, and the number of police mechas was not large. The 9 people on his side fought for a long time, but the other side couldn't suppress it, and it seemed that they were still retreating. Dongpeng was wondering. The gunfire on the opposite side suddenly stopped, the light of the searchlight disappeared, and the surroundings fell into darkness again, with only the faint light of the instrument on the exoskeleton's operating panel. "Cease fire," Dongpeng said loudly. The gunfire in the room slowly stopped, and the younger brothers next to him looked at Dongpeng in confusion. "Brother Peng, what's wrong?" "Something's wrong. I always feel a little panicked." "When did these cops become so weak?" Dongpeng frowned and said, preparing to control the exoskeleton armor to go out and take a look. Dongpeng was right to be confused, because in this battle, none of the various exoskeleton armors and police mechas that the police station usually has did appear. The other side only relied on temporary positions and guns in their hands to fight with him and others. Just as Dongpeng tried to look outside, a roar of engine sounded. The sound came from far away and then suddenly returned to calm. "Brother Peng, what? The bald brother scanned the situation outside with horror and said tremblingly. Dongpeng did not speak this time, his eyes were also fixed on the outside. A feeling of fear began to spread among the panicked crowd. Suddenly, the light of the searchlight that had just dimmed reappeared, all shining directly on the corner where Dongpeng and others were, and at this time, Dongpeng and others finally saw the situation outside. Everyone opened their eyes wide and opened their mouths. At the end of the empty street, 5 tall figures appeared under the illumination of searchlights. 5 mechas about 8 meters high, smooth in shape, and black with a metallic luster appeared there. The flashing signal lights on the mechas' heads and the ferocious kinetic rifles in their hands made Dongpeng feel that the hairs on his back stood up and his whole body was stiff. "Jackdaw? The military is here too." Dongpeng recognized the mechas not far away at a glance, and his heart skipped a beat. Military mechas, the others were not fools either. Those who knew a little bit also recognized that the mechas not far away were from the military and shouted out immediately. But it was too late. The 5 mechas had locked onto the target the moment the lights came on, and the crazy firepower poured down immediately. The mechas began to move and attacked in the direction of Dongpeng and others. "Hurry up and fight back." Dongpeng's eyes were bloodshot and he shouted loudly. The exoskeleton fired wildly, and his men also fired wildly with all their strength. But all efforts were in vain. The tall mechas almost ignored the damage of the machine guns. The mechas in the front opened the force field shield to block all the firepower from Dongpeng's side, and were about to approach Dongpeng and others. "Go. Leave here and flee." Seeing this scene, Dongpeng had no choice but to issue the last order to his men, asking everyone to escape. "It has been at least 10 minutes now. My brother and the others should have escaped, right?" Dongpeng decisively turned the exoskeleton and jumped out of the large floor-to-ceiling window next to him, preparing to leave the battlefield. The 9 people immediately scattered. But the mecha team had arrived. In just a moment, the 8-meter-high mecha fired at the 3-meter-high exoskeleton, just like cutting melons and vegetables, and instantly broke the few exoskeletons that did not leave in half. At this moment, the advantage fell to the military mecha side, and the members of the Green Ghost gang could only flee in panic. But Dongpeng had no way out, because he had been followed by mecha. Tiny U was a heavy exoskeleton and was not very fast. Dongpeng could only temporarily rely on the low eaves of the door on the corner to escape the opponent's attack. But when another mecha appeared not far away in front of him, Dongpeng knew that he was finished. He was dead. Dongpeng yelled and frantically manipulated the exoskeleton to fire, but the bullets of the machine gun were all fired the next moment, and there was no sound. Desperate situation. Completely desperate situation. Dongpeng's face was already full of fear. He didn't expect that under the attack of the opponent's mecha, he and others would retreat so quickly. It was like a dog that had lost its home. They were beaten to pulp in an instant. The combat power of the mecha was so terrifying. And Dongpeng was about to be pissed off now. The two military mechas had already found Dongpeng's position, and the huge muzzles in their hands were aimed at Dongpeng. It seemed that they were not going to leave him alive. Dongpeng closed his eyes unwillingly, ready to face death. Gunshots rang out, but Dongpeng did not feel any pain. Opening his eyes, Dongpeng saw a short mecha with mottled armor on the street struggling to hold open the hand of the military mecha, allowing Dongpeng to escape. Brother, Dongpeng recognized the shabby mecha in front of him at a glance. This was the mecha that his brother had spent a lot of money to buy. He didn't expect that his brother didn't leave, but came back to save him. Xiaoping. Go. Go. Dongkun's roar came from the mecha, and the military mecha in front of Dongkun had already distanced himself from Dongkun, and his right hand drew out the long knife on his body. Another jackdaw on the other side also opened fire at this time, and rushed to the position of the mecha controlled by Dongkun. Mecha found, unknown model, unknown risk factor, request to use mecha melee weapons. The military mecha driver immediately reported the situation to his superiors and requested to use the powerful melee arc knife. You are allowed to use it, but limit the damage to surrounding buildings. Understood. Dongkun stood there in a daze, looking at the mecha driven by Dongkun. Xiaoping. Don't you understand me? Go. Dongkun had seen the situation clearly. Two very advanced jackdaw mechas were more than enough to fight against his self-modified defective products. Originally, he just wanted to come back and take Dongpeng away, but he didn't expect that the police attacked from both sides. Both the teams heading west and east were attacked at the same time. And not only that, even the military got involved. It seems that this time he really kicked the iron plate. Brother, what about you? Dongpeng asked anxiously. Don't worry about me, run. The farther the better, leave the aquamarine star, go, Dongkun shouted, manipulating the armor to directly block the arc knife of the jackdaw mecha in front of him, and the right arm of the mecha was cut into a lot. Go, Dongkun shouted for the last time, and Dongpeng immediately got off the exoskeleton, walked into the house next to him, and ran madly into the distance. Seeing Dongpeng had already left, Dongkun turned his head to look at the jackdaw in front of him, and also drew out the long knife on the waist of the mecha, and attacked the military mecha fiercely. But a broken and junk mecha against two top-level military mechas was doomed to be futile and would definitely end in death. Suddenly, thunder was heard in the sky. This was the first rain in May, and it began to fall. And in the Pangbulan district, on this rainy night, there was no longer a gang called the Green Ghost Gang. Putting bowls to ask for collection, and votes. Chapter 32 Traces. The rain gradually got heavier, crackling everywhere, with constant noise and a little noise. Su Wang, who was wearing a neat military uniform, was standing next to the broken mecha driven by Dongkun, looking at everything with a calm face. However, at this time, the broken mecha was scattered on the ground, and Dongkun had become a cold corpse. Taking the report handed over by the side, Su Wang looked at it and said with a rather dissatisfied tone. That's all. The person next to him nodded hesitantly. In other words, this operation did not catch any members of the Bloodskull Brotherhood. We just killed a bunch of minions. The director of the Zichen District Police Station standing next to Su Wang nodded, but thought of something and said attentively, in fact, it's not that there is no gain. At least these 10 Iron Bull armors can prove that they must be related to the Bloodskull. Su Wang seemed not to hear the other party's explanation and threw the report back to the other party. Have you found any clues about the Bloodskulls? Where are the possible secret gathering places of the Bloodskulls? The police chief received the report. When he heard this question, his expression became a little constipated. He lowered his head and did not answer the other party's question. In fact, the administrative department and the military of the Aquamarine Star have paid great attention to this operation. The police chief has a very important task on his shoulders, but he has not been able to find any decent intelligence until now. Su Wang was not feeling well either. This time, he made a big move in the city and dispatched 2 mecha teams. In the end, apart from destroying the thugs of the local gang, he failed to catch any member of the Bloodskull Brotherhood. In other words, the crisis lurking in the Aquamarine Star has not been resolved. The Iron Bull exoskeleton just now, this early armored exoskeleton invented by the Central Star region has never been produced on the planet, But because it is relatively simple to manufacture and does not require high materials, the blood skulls are equipped with a large number of such exoskeletons. He has also seen this exoskeleton in several battles with the blood skulls. Although this exoskeleton has low protection, its wide weapon rack can carry a variety of individual weapons and can cause great damage. Fortunately, today these Iron Bull exoskeletons are only equipped with 2 conventional machine guns. If they were equipped with other bombs or something like that, the situation today might not be under control. At least the surrounding buildings would not be as well protected as they are now. However, the opponent's Iron Bull exoskeleton appeared on Aquamarine, which means that the opponent may have a hidden factory on Aquamarine that can manufacture such weapons. Or it means that the opponent can secretly deceive the space customs from space and secretly transport such things to Aquamarine. But obviously the former requires less manpower and material resources, and also has less risks. At least Su Wong trusts that the space customs will not be deceived so easily. If this is the case, then it is worth noting. Su Wong felt that he needed to make a report on this issue and submit it to his superiors. But today's operation was really a failure. I thought I could catch a few small fish, but in the end I only saw some fish scales. Su Wong sighed slightly, took a step, and left the scene. Tomorrow morning, this place will be restored to its original state, and the Green Ghost Gang will only become a piece of news on tomorrow's morning news. It was almost dawn, but Yang Mu was still outside, but not on the Pangbalin Street district, but in the big market where Chen Ke was. Yang Mu was quietly following a person not far ahead, slowly moving forward, and occasionally looking for some dark places to hide his body. The reason why Yang Mu did not go home so late, but followed a person, was because this person made Yang Mu feel a little unusual. At around 10 o'clock in the evening, after Yang Mu had been unable to get close to the Pangbalin Street district, Yang Mu waited outside again until there was movement inside, but he seemed to be noticed by several policemen on guard outside, and Yang Mu had to choose to leave. Originally, Yang Mu was riding his bike to rush home, but when he passed an empty road, Yang Mu was waiting for the red light at the intersection, and at this time, a person came out of a small alley next to him. Maybe there weren't many people on the street, so Yang Mu noticed it at the first time, but he just glanced at it quickly and didn't pay much attention. Just then the green light came, and Yang Mu rode his bicycle towards the man facing him. Suddenly, a car drove behind Yang Mu, and the bright headlights illuminated the face of the man not far in front of Yang Mu. At this moment, Yang Mu saw clearly the man who deliberately lowered the brim of his hat. There was a tattoo on his face. Yang Mu didn't care much when he saw it at first glance. After riding for another minute, Yang Mu suddenly felt that he had seen the man with the tattoo on his face before. Yang Mu's mind flashed, and he remembered where he had seen the man. In the alley of the market, the man he bumped into when he first went to see Chen Ke. Yang Mu's mind immediately overlapped the two faces together. Yang Mu hurriedly stopped the car and looked at the place where the man came out. The alley seemed to be in the direction of Pangbalin Street, but it was only a few blocks away. Yang Mu immediately became alert. Turning the car around quickly, Yang Mu rushed to the place where the man disappeared. Although he didn't know whether the other party was related to the Green Ghost Gang or the Blood Skull, Yang Mu felt that the person who sneaked away from this direction at this point might be problematic. So Yang Mu decided to go and have a look. It's better to be safe than sorry. Because of Yang Mu's decision, Yang Mu followed the man from a distance and finally arrived here, the big market in Halen City. As the other party brought him here, Yang Mu's heart had changed from the initial doubts to the current certainty. The other party is definitely related to the Blood Skull Brotherhood. The market is simply the best hiding place. This kind of place has a complex personnel, mixed with good and bad people, and the government is not easy to manage. It is not surprising that the Blood Skull hides here. So Yang Mu followed more cautiously. But at a corner, Yang Mu felt that the other party seemed to have discovered him, so he waited for a long time before following him from a side alley. But when Yang Mu looked over carefully, he only saw a dark, quiet corner, and there was no trace of the man. It was probably midnight now. There were no street lights in a place like the market where public facilities were not perfect. It was raining, so Yang Mu could not go any further. He could only secretly remember this place, and then went home a little depressed. In Yang Mu's mind now, this place must have big fish, at least there are different places, and combined with the information that the man just came out of the Pangbalin district, the possibility that the other party is the Blood Skull is a little higher. Yang Mu remembered this place firmly and decided to come and try it out in the next few days. Since he knew the information about the blood skull, there was no reason to let it go. Chapter 33 Yuan Hong. At the same time that Yang Mu left the market, Kim, who didn't know he was being followed, also walked into a two-story building not far from the corner. In the building, there were many guys with different styles of clothing and fierce faces, sitting on the first floor smoking, making the whole room full of smoke. These guys were the members of the Bloodskull Brotherhood who had just been transferred from the Green Ghost Gang, and there were about 20 to 30 of them. But surprisingly, these people didn't rest at this time, but were full of energy. Seeing Cam come in, they all cast inquiring eyes. Cam just made an okay gesture, went straight up the stairs and went to the second floor. On the second floor, Cam greeted the two guys in black suits at the door and pushed the door open and walked in. It was already midnight, but there was a man sitting on the sofa in the room, smoking, looking out the window, lost in thought for a long time. Seeing Cam push the door in, the man asked while smoking, "How is it going?" "Everything is going well. The Green Ghost Gang has those 10 Iron Bulls with them. They are making a lot of noise. They won't just give up their investigation there." Cam bowed respectfully, his expression becoming sinister. "The military has also been dispatched. It seems that they sent Su Wong's team." "Oh?" The man raised his eyebrows, as if he was a little surprised. "I didn't expect this Su guy to come. I hope he won't find out anything." Cam smiled and replied, "It shouldn't be. The other party will never think that our goal is actually..." Cam was talking proudly, but was interrupted by the man's raised hand. "Just know it in your heart. Speak it out. Be careful that there are ears on the other side." Yes, boss, I was wrong." Cam nodded and admitted his mistake immediately. The man didn't say anything else, but waved his hand to let Cam go out, then stood up, walked to the window, looked at the prosperous city in the distance, a light flashed in his eyes, and he murmured, "I hope everything goes well. Then we can turn Halen City upside down." Monday, a new week begins. "Hi, boss, Haozi, I'm now settled in Bianlian, the administrative star of the new Song Star region. My dad is going to open a building materials store in the building materials market next door. I'm helping him out. It's very tiring every day, but I won't go to school. It can help relieve some pressure on my family. By the way, boss, have you seen your video on Tem? You've really made the forum boil. There are so many people who have applied to be your friends in the good accounts these days." "Oh, no more. My dad called me to work. I'll chat with you next time." Remembered to reply. The video of Dulan smiling and showing his white teeth stopped at this moment. Yang Mu and Jia Hao were a little reluctant to watch it. This was a video sent by Dulan tens of thousands of light years away. Yang Mu just received this news this morning, so he called Jia Hao to watch it together during the break. Seeing that Dulan was fine, Yang Mu was relieved. Although it seemed that Dulan had spent a lot of money there and was no longer living like a rich second generation, as long as Dulan and his friends did not go to the original place, everything could start over, and there might be better development. Mu Shui, let's go see Dulan after the college entrance examination, Jia Hao, who was sitting next to him, said a little depressed. And it seemed that he missed his friend Dulan. Yang Mu nodded. Indeed, it would be good to go see Dulan during this vacation. After all, after going to college, he and Jia Hao might not have such an opportunity. "Hey, Mu Shui, don't you play games these days? A lot of people are looking for you on the forum, and some people say you are missing." Jia Hao was about to return to his seat, and suddenly remembered what Dulan said just now, and turned to Yang Mu and asked. Yang Mu smiled and shook his head. He didn't have much time to play games at least now, so he would wait until he finished the college entrance examination. Seeing that Yang Mu didn't say anything, Jia Hao didn't ask much. Just at this time, the class bell rang, and Jia Hao could only return to his seat and continue studying. The intense course of the day finally ended. Yang Mu and Jia Hao packed up and were about to go home. At this time, Yang Mu suddenly noticed something different. There were two investigators' cars parked downstairs of the school's administrative office building. Yang Mu happened to see a figure walking into the administrative building with several investigators following him. Yang Mu looked closely and found that it was Yu Wenqiu. The investigators actually came here and went straight to Yu Wenqiu. Could it be related to the Green Ghost Gang? This thought flashed through Yang Mu's mind, and his steps stopped and he looked straight over. Yu Wenqiu also exchanged a glance with Yang Mu at this time, then lowered his head and walked into the administrative building not far away at the urging of the investigators. "Boss, isn't that Yu Wenqiu?" Jia Hao also saw Yu Wenqiu and said to Yang Mu. Yang Mu frowned, but didn't say anything, but walked towards the administrative building. "Boss, what are you doing?" Jia Hao saw Yang Mu walking towards the administration building and shouted immediately. "Go check the situation," Yang Mu said without looking back and walked into the administration building quickly. "Go back first, don't follow me. The investigators must have no good intentions when they come to see Yu Wenqiu now, and it has nothing to do with Yang Mu, but Yang Mu just wants to go and take a look." No matter what this matter means to Yu Wenqiu, Yang Mu feels that he needs to know something. At least let him know some information about the Bloodskull Brotherhood at that time, or he can reveal some information he knew yesterday to the investigators. Thinking of this, Yang Mu followed behind and went up the stairs of the administration building, and saw the other party finally enter the reception room of the Academic Affairs Office on the second floor. "You son of a bitch. Bastard. Dare to do bad things behind my back." Before Yang Mu could get close, the roar of a middle-aged man came from the reception room, followed by the voices of several people trying to persuade them to stop fighting. Yang Mu slowly approached, wanting to hear more clearly. "Student, our investigators don't want to do anything to you, but after all, we have found relevant records of your dealings with the Green Ghost Gang. There are some things that may require your cooperation in the investigation." In the reception room, a young investigator explained to Yu Wenqiu, who was standing beside him with a smile on his face. "Green Ghost Gang? Or do you want to know about the Bloodskull Brotherhood?" Before the police officer could get to the point, Yu Wenqiu spoke calmly, completely ignoring the fact that his father was still scolding him. On a chair beside the reception room, a man with disheveled hair, skinny body, and stubble on his face was drinking water from a cup under the comfort of the investigators and school leaders. This was the father who had just reprimanded Yu Wenqiu, named Yu Wenhong. As soon as Yu Wenqiu's words came out, Yu Wenhong's eyes immediately widened a few points, and his eyes were full of disbelief. "Bloodskull Brotherhood. You have connections with them." Yu Wenhong became excited again when he heard these words, even a little nervous. He immediately put down the cup, stood up and looked at Yu Wenqiu who was standing opposite him. Yu Wenqiu looked up at his father, then lowered his head and did not reply. "Explain yourself clearly. You bastard." Seeing that Yu Wenqiu ignored him, Yu Wenhong was furious and wanted to rush over to teach his son a lesson, but was stopped again by the investigators and school leaders present. There was chaos in the reception room, and Yang Mu was also confused when he heard it outside. Chapter 34 I Have to Keep You Alive. Yang Mu was just about to stand forward to listen to what was being said inside, when someone patted Yang Mu on the shoulder from behind. "Student, what are you doing here?" a female teacher asked Yang Mu, who was hiding and looking at the reception room. Yang Mu was frightened and stood up quickly. His mind was spinning wildly, and he finally thought of an excuse. "Teacher, I wanted to come here to ask about some precautions for recommended students." "Oh, then you can come back later or tomorrow. It may be off work now." Hearing Yang Mu's words, the expression on the female teacher's face obviously changed from displeasure to surprise, and then to praise, and even her tone became gentle. "I didn't expect that the student in front of me was actually a recommended student. It's true that you can't judge a person by his appearance." The female teacher was full of admiration, and the last moment, she wanted to give this guy who was standing in the corridor a good scolding. "Okay, thank you teacher." Watching the female teacher walk away, Yang Mu wiped the sweat from his forehead, quickly looked at the reception room, and found that there was nothing unusual, so he walked a few steps forward and listened at the door next to the reception room. "Old company commander, calm down and wait for Xiaochu to finish speaking. We also believe that Xiaochu is not that kind of person." In the reception room, a middle-aged man of medium build and slightly fat advised. "He is the director of the school's teaching department, Director Ma, and also Yu Wenhong's former comrade-in-arms." Unexpectedly, Yu Wenqiu's father actually knew the school's leaders, and it seemed that Yu Wenqiu's father was also a man with a story. Taking advantage of the gap, Yang Mu was able to see the situation inside. Yu Wenqiu's father and Yu Wenqiu's image were completely different, and the whole person had a decadent feeling. Yu Wenhong did not speak at this time, and sat down and waited for Yu Wenqiu to make his words clear. "Young man, since you know the Bloodskull, it means you have seen one of them." Yu Wenqiu glanced at the person who was speaking, a burly investigator, swallowed his saliva, and said, "I have seen one, and the characteristics are very obvious, Yuan Q said. The people in the reception room were obviously in high spirits, and everyone's eyes were on Yuan Q, while Yuan Hong showed a worried look. What characteristics? The investigator continued to ask. There is a tattoo on his face, and it is a skull, Yuan Q said. The investigator looked at the investigator next to him and nodded meaningfully. It seems to be the tattooed skull, the investigator said to himself. Then do you know where these people came from? The investigator continued to ask. Yuan Q shook his head, indicating that he didn't know. Have you seen other people? Did the other party mention any place names or anything like that? The investigator asked Yuan Q a series of questions aggressively, but Yuan Q just shook his head, indicating that he didn't know. Comrade investigator, you see, my son knows almost this little bit, and the rest is true. My son is an honest man. He has never caused me any trouble and has always been a good student. At this time, Yuan Hong, who was sitting next to him, spoke up and stood up to exonerate his son from some of the blame. As a father, no matter how much he scolds, he still loves his children in his heart. The burly investigator did not reply, but instead glanced at Yuan Hong, and then asked again, little brother, you are still young, we will not hold you responsible, but it does not mean that we will not do anything if you do not tell the truth, the investigator said calmly, but there was some threat in his tone. Yuan Q still did not show any expression on his face, and the atmosphere in the reception room began to become a little tense. Comrade, what do you mean by this? What are you going to do to my son if he does not speak? Yuan Hong heard the other party's words and immediately became angry and glared at the investigator. Old company commander, calm down, isn't the investigator solving the problem? Calm down, let's talk it out. The dean of teaching next to him quickly stepped forward to smooth things over. That's all I know. If you can't do it, I can't do anything about it. Yuan Q saw that the other party was not giving in, so he spoke. The middle-aged investigator stared at Yuan Q for a long time, and finally gave in, and said, I will not pursue this matter, but young man, you should restrain yourself. You help others play games in the internet cafe and even got physical, Captain Chu, come on, thank you for your hard work, have a cigarette. At this time, the Dean of Education next to him interrupted the other party's words, and stepped forward to hand over a cigarette with a smile. Wait, what did you just say? Yuan Hong noticed something different, stopped Director Ma, and stepped forward to question. Hey, old captain, what are you doing? Come on, let's solve the problem properly. Director Ma started to smooth things over again. But Yuan Hong didn't appreciate it. He walked straight to the Captain Chu, looked at him fiercely, and asked, tell me clearly, what happened to my son? Captain Chu saw Yuan Hong's aggressive momentum, but showed a disdainful expression on his face. He leaned back in his chair and said, then you have to ask your son. He helped others play games in the internet cafe and beat people. As far as I know, the reason why he knew about the Blood Skull and got involved with a Green Ghost gang was because he borrowed. Shut up. Yuan Chu's voice suddenly sounded in the reception room, and everyone turned to look at him. Yuan Chu lowered his head with a gloomy face. Yuan Chu suddenly raised his head, stared at Captain Chu who was sitting on the chair with a fierce face, and said with gritted teeth, if you talk nonsense again, believe it or not, I will break your teeth. Yuan Chu's eyes were full of murderous intent, as if there was some secret that he didn't want Yuan Hong to know. What? Can you explain it clearly? Yuan Hong, who was standing in the field, shouted in confusion. At this moment, there was silence in the field. Yuan Chu and Director Ma both lowered their heads, not daring to look at Yuan Hong. Instead, Captain Chu stood up, walked in front of Yuan Hong, and looked at Yuan Hong. Captain Chu raised his hand and patted Yuan Hong's thin and hunched shoulders, saying, take good care of your son. He borrowed usury and helped them to pay off the debts. Our Director Ma helped to conceal everything, so you are the only one who was kept in the dark from beginning to end. Yuan Hong was gradually shocked by these words and froze in place. Shut up. Yuan Chu finally couldn't stand the other party's sarcasm anymore. He shouted, his face was bulging with blue veins, and he rushed towards Captain Chu. But he was grabbed by the other party's neck and thrown to the side. Yuan Chu struggled to stand up, but was held down by other investigators. Captain Chu in front of him was actually a master of the third-level physique, or even higher. Yang Mu, who was standing outside the door, looked at this scene in disbelief. Yuan Hong stood there, his body trembling constantly, and the expression on his face became a little ferocious. The next second, Yu Wenhong rushed directly to Yu Wenchu, raised his hand, and slapped Yu Wenchu fiercely with grief and anger. Pa! Yu Wenchu was a little dazed by this sudden slap. You bastard! You actually did such a thing behind my back, Yu Wenhong roared. And you lied to me that you studied hard in school. Yu Wenhong wanted to fight more, and Director Ma hurried forward and held Yu Wenhong tightly. But Yu Wenchu was not to be outdone, with red eyes, looking at Yu Wenhong, and also roared. What do you know? All I did was for you. I have to keep you alive. Live well. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 35 Don't Despise the Poor Youngsters. I have to keep you alive. Yu Wenchu's roar rang out in the reception room, like the first powerful roar of a young lion whose mane has not yet grown darker, which immediately stunned everyone. Everyone's eyes were focused on this handsome boy with an unusually firm tone. Director Ma, who had been trying to persuade them to stop fighting, sighed deeply at this time, slowly loosened his hand that was tightly around Yu Wenhong's waist, and stood aside. You, what did you say? Yu Wenhong, who was standing in front of Yu Wenchu, stopped moving at this time, trembling and asked. His expression became a little stiff. Yu Wenchu shook off the two investigators who were holding him down, knelt on the ground with his legs, his hair disheveled, and his face flushed. Yu Wenchu looked at the floor that was a little dazzling under the sunlight, and the light shone in his eyes, and something shiny was flashing. 4 years ago, my mother died of infection after the kidney transplant surgery. You couldn't do anything because you transplanted a kidney to my mother, and the family savings were used up on my mother's treatment. You became more and more depressed, drinking all day long, sleeping when drunk, and drinking again when you woke up. At that time, Uncle Ma asked me to come here to study in high school, but I didn't want to come at all, because I wanted to go out and do something early, improve the conditions at home, and pay off the debts I owed, but you agreed drunkenly and were very happy. That was the first time I saw you smile after my mother passed away, so I came here, because I think that's what you want to see. Yu Wenchu paused, as if he was struggling with something. But later, you still lived in a daze every day, staying at home drinking all day. You drank yourself to the point of gastric bleeding, and I called Uncle Ma in the middle of the night and sent you to the hospital. When Yu Wenchu said this, he suddenly looked up at his father, as if he had made a huge decision. But do you know what the doctor told me? He said that you have gastric perforation, and because of your originally weak constitution, your condition is much more serious than that of ordinary people. The doctor told me that if you want to recover, you must spend a lot of money to take an expensive gastric mucosal protection medicine. Otherwise, if you have another gastric bleeding, you will. Yu Wenchu choked up when he said this, blocking the next words. Do you know how much a bottle of the medicine I urge you to take every morning and evening costs? That medicine costs 2,000 yuan a bottle, but one bottle can only be used for 1 week. Your retirement allowance can only last for 2 weeks. What about the remaining 2 weeks? I have to find money for you, buy medicine for you, and keep you alive, but I'm a student. Even if I do odd jobs at a construction site, I can't make that much money. What can I do? I can only do something dishonorable. Don't I know those things are illegal? Why did I come back to repeat my studies? Is it because I can't pass the exam? No, I have no choice. I have to come back to save enough money for your medicine for the next year, and then I can go to school, so that you can be proud of me and survive. But where can I save it? If you don't let me do this, where can I find medicine for you? How can I let you survive? You are all I have left. I have to keep you alive. Only in this way can I survive. The veins on Yu Wenchu's forehead bulged, his face was swollen and red, his right hand pounded his chest, roaring and revealing all the bitterness and pain in the boy's heart that he had never told anyone. Yang Mu, who was standing outside the door, listened to this and lowered his head without knowing when, and the expression on his face became a little unnatural. The people in the room also lowered their heads. Xiaochu, didn't you say that the medicine only cost 1,000 yuan a month? Why did you hide it from your uncle? Director Ma, who was standing next to Yu Wenhong, said with a trembling voice at this time, looking at Yu Wenchu who was kneeling on the ground with a distressed face. Uncle Ma, I really can't cause you any more trouble. You have covered so many troubles for me, and it's not easy for you. I can't let you pay again. Yu Wenchu looked at Director Ma and said tremblingly. Yu Wenchu sniffed, turned his head back to look at the ground in front of him, and said softly, Dad, I'm done. You can beat me or scold me. The voice sounded, but there was no response, and the whole room was silent. After a long time, plop, a pair of knees appeared in front of Yu Wenchu, who was also kneeling on the ground. Yu Wenchu looked up in surprise, but saw his father's face full of tears and old face. Xiaoqiu. Dad, I'm useless. I can't save your mother, and I can't let you live a good life. At this moment, looking at his father who was emaciated due to injuries, Yu Wenchu's tears could no longer be stopped, and they poured out from his eyes. Xiaoqiu. Dad is sorry for you. Yu Wenhong grabbed his pants with his thin hands and cried softly. Dad, Yu Wenchu rushed over, hugged his father, and cried loudly in pain. The whole reception room was filled with the crying of father and son. Everyone present was secretly wiping tears. Captain Chu, who looked fierce, was also somewhat moved after seeing all this. He stepped forward and wanted to say something apologetic, but Director Ma, who was standing beside him, exploded at this time. Director Ma, who usually looked kind, pushed Captain Chu away, glared at him with red eyes. Fuck. Get out of here, Chu. Don't think that our old company commander is easy to bully. My old company commander is also a tough guy. If I push him too hard, I will call a group of old comrades to beat you up. Now, please. Get out of here. Director Ma waved his hand, pointed at the door, and said fiercely. Captain Chu showed a trace of embarrassment on his face, moved his mouth, but still didn't say anything, lowered his head and turned to go out, and the other investigators followed him out of the reception room. Hey, Captain Chu walked out of the door and was about to go down the stairs, but was stopped by Yang Mu, who was standing next to the reception room. Captain Chu turned his head and looked at a black-haired student in school uniform standing by the door, not knowing what was going on. Yang Mu sniffed his nose, exhaled, looked up at the window, and slowly spoke to Captain Chu, who was not far to the left. Sir, no matter how legitimate your reasons are to open a person's scars, Yang Mu paused for a moment and turned to look at Investigator Chu at the stairs. But I just want to tell you one thing, don't always do things with prejudice, whether you do it intentionally or unintentionally. Yang Mu's voice was sonorous and powerful, and it rang out in the empty corridor. Captain Chu and Yang Mu looked at each other, and actually felt a hint of majesty in the eyes of the student in front of him, which made Captain Chu's heart skip a beat. An awkward smile appeared at the corner of his mouth, which was regarded as a response to Yang Mu's words, and then he put on his hat and hurried downstairs. Some changes must be made, please forgive me. Chapter 36 Back online. The crying in the reception room gradually subsided. Yang Mu quietly wiped the tears from his eyes, blinked a few times, and went downstairs with his school bag. Before, Yang Mu's impression of Yu Wenchu was that he was a person with good talents but didn't want to follow the right path. But today, Yang Mu overturned all his previous ideas. At this moment, Yang Mu only felt that the guy who did things that made people unhappy was also a flesh and blood person. After all, he also had his own difficulties. Downstairs, Jia Hao was still waiting next to the administrative building. When he saw Yang Mu coming down, he immediately came over. Yang Mu walked with his head down and walked forward on his own. Boss, what's going on? Why do I hear someone crying? Jia Hao walked to Yang Mu with a curious look on his face and asked puzzledly. Is it that Yu Wenchu crying? Yang Mu's footsteps suddenly stopped, raised his head and looked at Jia Hao, and his eyes seemed to be a little murderous, which scared Jia Hao. Hey Ozzy, do you have money with you? Yes. I did. What's wrong? Jia Hao replied in surprise. Yang Mu lowered his head and continued walking. Let's go to the internet cafe. Go to the internet cafe? I'll go. Isn't the boss going home? It's quite late now. Let's go to the internet cafe and play some TRM, Yang Mu said, putting away the bicycle next to him and holding it in his hand. Yang Mu felt a sense of sullenness in his heart, which came from Yu Wenchu. After hearing Yu Wenchu's words, Yang Mu was deeply touched. Perhaps because of the similar life experience with Yang Mu was moved by the scene and felt a ball of fire in his heart. Yang Mu needed to vent, to release the anger in his heart. Yang Mu and Jia Hao came to an internet cafe not far from the school. At this moment, the internet cafe was crowded with people, and a burst of unpleasant smells floated out of it. The noisy environment made Yang Mu frown, but he still took Jiao Hao in. Turning on 2 computers in the public area near the window was also a comfort. Alice, without Duolin, we are actually living such a miserable life, Jiao Hao wailed, and handed the machine's startup aluminum plate to Yang Mu. Yang Mu did not speak, but silently inserted the aluminum plate into the card slot of the semi-enclosed game operation cabin, and then sat directly in the game cabin. Jiao Hao was still very confused about what happened to Yang Mu today. Since he came out of the administrative building, his whole momentum has been a little wrong, and he also came to play games. He said that he would not come to play during this period. Is it because of stimulation? Jiao Hao was quite puzzled, but when he saw Yang Mu had already entered the game cabin, Jiao Hao shook his head and followed him into the game cabin next to him. After logging into the game, a flash of light flashed in the holographic helmet, and Yang Mu and Jiao Hao entered the main interface of the real mecha, the game lobby. Boss, how are you going to play today, or play the classic mode? Jiao Hao also entered the game at this time and asked in the microphone. No, brawl mode, Yang Mu said lightly, directly created a room, and pulled Jiao Hao into the team. Brawl, that's fine, I'll bring a few more people, Jiao Hao said with understanding, preparing to slide the pop-up window in front of him to pull up a few friends in the list, because since Yang Mu showed his strength last time, Jiao Hao firmly believed that even the most inexperienced players could be led by Yang Mu. So find a few friends to let them see the world. And I guess no one in the entire game would have thought that the master they have been looking for these days is finally online. Let everyone tremble. Jiao Hao was so excited that his hands holding the somatosensory controller felt a little sweaty. No need, just the 2 of us. While Jiao Hao was sliding the screen to find online friends, Yang Mu said directly, and then clicked start. Jiao Hao was confused, not knowing what the boss was going to do. This was a brawl, 100 teams, 500 mechas fighting in an area of 4 square kilometers, and the boss brought a rookie like himself in? He didn't even have 2 more teammates? It would be better to find 3 people to be cannon fodder. The screen in the 2 holographic helmets flashed again. Jiao Hao, who had entered the preparation interface, was about to complain to Yang Mu that he was too reckless, but he saw that Yang Mu, who was not far away, had already chosen a mecha and was about to sit in the cockpit. Jiao Hao took a look at the mecha that Yang Mu chose, and his eyes were about to pop out. Green Mantis? Using such a fragile mecha in a brawl? Would Mushuai's brain burn out? This absurd thought flashed through Jiao Hao's mind. As for why Jiao Hao thought so, it was because the mecha that Yang Mu chose in front of him was a mecha that focused on a single function. What does it mean? Just like there are mecha types that focus on defense and firepower, and the Green Mantis mecha in front of him is a typical offensive reconnaissance mecha, with a light body and fast speed. The hot weapons are 2 machine guns in the arms, and the cold weapons are 2 long sickles, which are very lethal. But that's it. After all, this mecha has a nickname in the mouths of old players. Male Mantis. He was powerful for a while, and then GG. In fact, it was about the armor of this mecha, which was extremely fragile, almost to the point of being wrapped in iron. Many veteran players would not use this mecha because it was too useless. Sometimes it could not even stop a bullet of a larger caliber. But Yang Mu chose such a mecha now, and it seemed that he had no intention of joking at all. Jiao Hao really didn't know how to complain about Yang Mu's series of tricks. What happened to Marinho today? Did he eat dynamite? Are you ready to experience the pleasure of being abused in the game? With a head full of questions, Jiao Hao chose a flying star mecha with comprehensive performance. He couldn't bear to look at Yang Mu's mecha and was about to persuade Yang Mu to change a mecha. But Yang Mu took the lead and said in the channel, "Mouse, remember to stay away from me later, huh?" Jiao Hao was confused again. What does it mean? In this kind of brawl mode, shouldn't everyone rely on each other and face danger together? Why? Boss, this is a chaotic battle, Jiao Hao said. Yang Mu took a deep breath, concentrating himself, and said with a stern tone, "I know, I'm just afraid that I can't control myself and will kill you too." Jiao Hao, who was sitting in the game cabin, almost dropped his jaw to his feet when he heard this. The game begins, please try to get first place. Before Jiao Hao could say anything else, the game began. With a flash of light, Yang Mu and Jiao Hao appeared on a yellow sand battlefield at the same time. Just when Yang Mu went online, a message alert sound suddenly came from Zixie's computer on a distant planet. The short-haired girl who was singing live in front of the computer stopped, glanced at the prompt message, and widened her eyes the next second. Annihilation is online, Zixi screamed in surprise in the room, hurriedly got into the game cabin next to her, and hurriedly put on the holographic helmet to enter the game. At the same time, the barrage in the live broadcast room exploded instantly. In the manner of the capital star, the watch of a refined boy who was enjoying the sunset on the second-floor balcony rang. After raising his hand and looking at it, the boy immediately showed an excited expression on his face. He hurriedly turned his wheelchair with both hands, calling the housekeeper downstairs while going to the room. The yellow dog behind him also followed the wheelchair and barked. This is an exciting moment for many TRM players, because the mysterious master who they have been looking for many days and thought would not be online like a flash in the pan is finally online. And the players who have been waiting and arguing can finally verify all their doubts today. Chapter 37 Green Death. The image in the holographic helmet flashed, and Yang Mu saw clearly where he was now, in a yellow sand desert. Over the past decade since the release of the real-life mecha, the response has been very strong. In order to keep players enthusiastic at all times, that is, to ensure the popularity of this game, the game company has continuously updated various mecha models while also designing hundreds of battle maps, and all of them are real-life scenes in high-precision modeling, so that players feel immersive and have a strong visual experience. For example, in the hot desert now, the air is distorted in the immersive image on the holographic helmet, simulating the hot scene in the desert. But Yang Mu, who was sitting in the game cabin, would not feel this, because the semi-immersive game can only deceive your eyes, but not your body. At this moment, looking at the barren picture in front of him, Yang Mu's eyes narrowed slightly and grinned. Mouse, remember to stay away from me, Yang Mu reminded again, and then manipulated the arm of the mecha to take off the two long-handled sickles on the back, and the unique engine on the back sprayed, rushing towards the sand slope in front of him. The engine design of the Green Mantis is also very interesting. Generally, two jet ports are set under the shoulder blades on the back of the mecha, but because the Green Mantis is light, two jet engines are added near the middle spine. When it has a faster speed, the battery power consumption will only be a little more than other mechas. Seeing Yang Mu controlling the Green Mantis to fly to the sand slope not far away, Jia Hao shrugged his shoulders, but did not leave as Yang Mu said, but controlled the mecha to follow. The reason is that Jia Hao thinks that if Yang Mu's Green Mantis accidentally gets into trouble, he can also support it in the first time. Of course, it is best not to get into trouble. However, at this time, the sound of various guns and cannons has been heard in the channel of Yang Mu and Jia Hao. In such a small map, as many as 500, oh no, 497 mechas gathered together, you can imagine how fierce the battle will be. After all, this mode is also called the meat grinder mode. Yang Mu flew up the sand slope in the light Green Mantis mech. As for why he chose this mech, on the one hand, it was because Yang Mu was attracted by the excellent attack power of this mech. The two weapons were completely out of scientific design. Although mechas in reality would not use such exaggerated designs, it did not mean that Yang Mu would not use them. On the contrary, Yang Mu was extremely obsessed with this mech for a while because of these two sickles. It was so cool to chop mechas. Moreover, there was another difficult reason, that is, this mech was already the most powerful one in Yang Mu's account. The original destroyer was basically scrapped in the last game, and it would cost hundreds of yuan to repair it. So for the time being, he could only use this mech. As soon as the Green Mantis stood firm on the sand slope, it was immediately attacked. Several bullets and missiles flew from the side of the sand slope and rushed straight to the vital point of the Green Mantis. Yang Mu's engine had not yet switched to low-power operation, so he stepped on the throttle and dodged to the side. Then, Yang Mu found the mecha that attacked him, a thorny flower mecha, which was standing at the bottom of the other side of the sand slope, holding an airborne rifle and attacking Yang Mu. Yang Mu manipulated the mecha to dodge nimbly, then locked the opponent's figure and rushed down, while blocking the chest of the mecha with two sickles in his hands, flashing cold light. Standing in a disadvantageous position, Thorny Flower was ready as soon as Yang Mu rushed over. The weapon slot behind it opened again, and several missiles were fired directly. At this time, the rifle in its hand was replaced with two alloy-long swords, ready to fight Yang Mu directly. The Thorny Flower mecha was already very good, but he didn't expect that the person in the mecha in front of him was not a rookie, but a real master. So Yang Mu almost easily released a wave of guided missiles to avoid the attack of the missiles, and then continued to wave the long sickle and rush towards the thorny flower, who was on full alert. Seeing Yang Mu break through the obstacles, the player controlling the thorny flower was not too surprised. After all, this mecha has strong mobility and it is difficult to take it down in one wave. But this does not mean that this mecha is invincible. The armor as thin as white paper is simply asking for trouble in front of his long sword. In the eyes of the thorny flower, the attack of the green mantis is just a disparate charge. The player controlling the thorny flower mecha even showed a hint of disdain on his face. The attack of the green mantis came the next moment, and the long-handled sickle rushed down with a whistling prestige, and the thorny flower mecha also waved its long sword and came into close contact with the green mantis mecha. The two mechas stirred up dust at the moment of contact, and the raised yellow sand covered the two mechas a lot. When the dust was blown away by the wind, Jia Hao, who had just climbed up the sand slope, saw the situation below clearly and was suddenly confused. The thorny flower mech under the sand slope was motionless at this moment. The two long swords that were swept up had been cut off and fell to the ground. In the next second, the body of the thorny flower split in the middle, and then Jia Hao's channel received the news that the system determined that the thorny flower mech was killed. Jia Hao was stunned and opened his mouth wide. Countless players who had just rushed into the room to watch the game were also stunned when they saw Yang Mu's operation. This is simply so terrifying. Everyone was shouting in their hearts that it was impossible, because what they saw was really incredible. This is the green mantis. A rubbish mech among the fragile ones. But now, facing a mech whose overall strength is obviously stronger than the green mantis, the opponent's player's IQ is also obviously online, and you can make standard defensive actions before attacking. But this is the situation. Just one blow. The green mantis defeated the thorny flower mech. And it was split from the center. This can only prove that if the players inside did not use the external auxiliary program, then the player who is controlling the green mantis mech at this moment must have an extremely terrifying ability to turn any rotten things in his hands into magic. The next moment, before everyone came to their senses, the green mantis turned around and walked to the side of the thorny vine flower that fell to the ground, violently pulled out two energy batteries from the energy cabin behind it, and inserted them into its spare energy card slot. Then he turned around and looked for the defense line, started the engine again, and flew towards a desert not far away. There was a large open space there, and there was a small village. Because of the existence of the obstruction, there were a large number of mechas fighting there at this time, and they were in a crazy melee. All the players watching the game stared at the green mantis controlled by Yang Mu flying there, skillfully dodging several waves of missiles along the way, and then plunged into the crowded group of mechas. There, countless mechas were firing guns and cannons, and the swords were shining, which was very lively. But the green mantis driven by Yang Mu suddenly appeared, like a drop of ice water splashed into boiling hot oil, causing bursts of explosions. Yang Mu held the two sickles in his hands, and all the four engines behind him were turned up to maximum power, shooting straight out, and rushing through the group of mechas. The green mantis stirred up a wave of dust in it. Every mecha that came into direct contact with Yang Mu would fall down in the next 2 seconds. Some were cut on the middle, and some were torn into pieces. The scene was simply tragic and spectacular. The players watching the game were simply overwhelmed at this time. The green mantis's smooth movements, combined with the third-person perspective, and the shocking visual experience made everyone exclaim with excitement. Everyone suppressed the original doubts in their hearts and watched Yang Mu's killing performance attentively. Under Yang Mu's control, the green mantis was like a man in a no-man's land. It was unstoppable and tore any mecha in front of it into pieces. If you look down from the sky, you can only see a battlefield that was originally a circle with a small village as the center. At this time, Yang Mu has completely plowed a road across the entire battlefield. On this small road, dozens of mechas have fallen. After chopping down another mecha, the green mantis has now appeared at the other end of the battlefield. The lively scene on the battlefield gradually subsided at this moment. All the players on the battlefield seemed to have discovered this different situation and looked at the green mecha not far away in amazement. But the green mantis did not stop there. Instead, it pulled off the 4 batteries of the mecha next to it, ejected the hot, smoking and red battery in its battery slot, and inserted a new battery. The power of the mecha went from 20% to 80%. Then all the players present and the spectators were surprised to see that the green mantis turned around, and the engine behind it once again sprayed blue flames, changed direction, and plunged back into the battlefield. The battlefield was boiling again, but this time, it was because of a green mecha. A mecha operating two long-handled sickles, like a green death in the yellow sand, madly harvesting heads. Chapter 38. Add a friend. Green Mantis's big and powerful moves and crisp moves made all the players watching the game stand up in surprise. Oh my god. This monstrous operation, this guy must have used a cheat. From now on, this guy will be my idol. What a cheat. It's on the forum homepage. If it was a cheat, the official would have blocked it long ago. It's so cool to watch. In Zixie's live broadcast room, the barrage was already arguing. Many people were arguing about Green Mantis's dazzling operations, and even divided into several factions to express their opinions. In the game forum of Real Mecha, someone had already disclosed the information about Annihilation's appearance at the first time. Mysterious Annihilation appeared in the Brawl battlefield, room number XXXX. Come and watch the game, guys. Go and block that Annihilation. Let him apologize for not coming out for so long. A stone stirred up 1,000 waves, and the forum immediately became lively. The lively scene was even no less than the game's year-end giveaway. After discovering that a server was madly crowding in players, the game company's operations department also understood it and immediately released a room link in the game lobby to show everyone Yang Mu's wonderful performance. But Yang Mu in the game didn't know all this at the moment, and he had no time to care about it, because Yang Mu, who was sitting in the game cabin, was concentrating on operating the mecha, deftly dodging the attacks of other mechas again and again, and then approaching every mecha not far from him, flashing two sickles, and the opponent's mecha was killed instantly. The game still has its advantages, that is, although the durability of the sickle will decrease, there is no gap on the weapon, and it is still extremely sharp, allowing Yang Mu to easily clear the targets one by one like cutting melons and vegetables. At this time, a strange situation also appeared on the battlefield, that is, the mechas that were originally fighting together, now turned their guns and attacked the mecha operated by Yang Mu together. It seems that Yang Mu is now the common enemy of everyone. Because this mecha that suddenly appeared was like a virus, sweeping all the mechas. No matter what type of mecha, it could not last more than a few moves under this Green Mantis. The opponent's moves were fierce, and the ability to control the mecha reached a terrifying level. At this time, all the players on the battlefield were shouting in the public channel, asking who the sudden Green Mantis was, because as far as everyone knew, even those big boss level tasks on the battle power list, no one could achieve such a terrifying control ability, let alone using a Green Mantis. Jia Hao, who was standing far away, twitched his mouth when he heard all kinds of greetings to his ancestors in the public channel, but he also wanted to join the army of complaints and complain about Yang Mu's amazing operation for more than 10 minutes. There was no other reason. In Jia Hao's memory, Yang Mu seemed to be just an ordinary mecha enthusiast. When could he see such a crazy operation, which was more than 100 times stronger than the last time? He manipulated the mecha to kill 3 times and 3 times in the mecha group. He had seen nearly 100 mechas. It was estimated that few of the top 10 bosses in this game could do this with fantasy mechas, right? If Jia Hao had not been with Yang Mu almost every day, Jia Hao would definitely quit the game and then take Yang Mu to the hospital for a checkup to see if someone had impersonated his boss. Looking at all this madness, Jia Hao now understood the meaning of what Yang Mu had just said. He was just squatting aside and shouting, "Mom, come out and see God." But unfortunately, Yang Mu did not open the public channel at this time, so naturally he could not hear the surprised shouts of the players. Yang Mu manipulated the sickle of the Green Mantis to swing continuously. One sickle hooked a mecha hiding behind the house in front of him, and then the sickle in the other hand swung, piercing the opponent's chest armor and directly killing the opponent. Then he looked for the target, swung, and killed. All the actions were like precisely designed steps, one step after another. Until the end, the durability of the 2 sickles of the mecha reached the upper limit, and the battery power was exhausted at this time, so the Green Mantis had to stop where it was. The mechas around the Green Mantis all surrounded it, but no one dared to step forward. For the first time, there was a silent scene on the battlefield. Yang Mu in the game cabin released the somatosensory handle in his hand, and let out a long breath, finally venting the anger in his heart. Then he glanced at his combat data and was surprised to find that he had destroyed so many mechas in a short time. Yang Mu himself felt a little incredible. He could only remember that when he was operating the mecha just now, his mind would be filled with a scene of Yu Wenqiu screaming in pain in the reception room, and then he was a little annoyed and waved the sickle in his hand to dispel his anger. Unexpectedly, he got such an incredible record in the end. Yang Mu was stunned for a moment, and felt a little dizzy. It was probably because he had just overconcentrated. Now he felt a little uncomfortable in his brain, so Yang Mu said to Jia Hao in the channel, "Hey Ozzy, don't fight anymore, quit." Oh, okay. Jia Hao, who was standing far away, heard Yang Mu's voice, was stunned for a moment, and then responded. The green mantis among the mecha corpses on the battlefield flickered and finally disappeared, leaving the mecha players around it dumbfounded. The players who were watching the game at this time were also confused, and they were curious about why Annihilation would quit the game at this time, because they were still watching a little bit. Why did he quit? I was having a blast watching it. It seems that this guy is tired of killing people. Wow, I really want to experience this feeling myself. Does the guy who wants to experience it want to experience the pleasure of being cut in half by a knife? Don't say anything. I'll go and submit a friend request in a boss and help me to gain points. Returning to the main interface of the game lobby, Yang Mu suddenly felt that this was boring. Just as he was about to quit the game, Yang Mu glanced at the information bar on the interface, which was flashing a red dot. Maybe it was Yang Mu's obsessive-compulsive disorder. Looking at the flashing interface, Yang Mu felt a little unbearable, so he reached out and opened the information bar. And countless emails popped up quickly, instantly filling every corner of Yang Mu's vision. Yang Mu was dumbfounded when he saw so many emails. He clicked on a few of them and found that they were all friend requests or challenge requests. It seemed that they were people attracted by the last incident. Yang Mu flipped through them and dragged them into the trash one by one. At this time, a golden email appeared inside. The bright appearance still attracted Yang Mu's attention. This kind of golden cover email is usually a skin that only rich people spend money to buy. I didn't expect that there was a rich person who was eyeing me. Yang Mu still clicked it to see what the email from the rich person looked like, but found that it was not a text email, but a video was loaded. A handsome boy suddenly appeared on Yang Mu's screen. Hello, although I don't know who you are, I admire your operation skills. I also learned through means that your operation does not have any traces of plugins, so I think you are a master. I want to make friends with you. I hope you agree. Yang Mu finished watching this short video and raised his eyebrows. Yang Mu, who had just released his emotions, was still in a good mood at the moment. Seeing that the other party was so sincere, Yang Mu also clicked to agree to the friend request. Then he continued to drag other spam emails into the trash can. The next moment after Yang Mu agreed, the other party immediately sent Yang Mu a message. Yang Mu clicked on the message and it said, "Hello, I'm glad to be friends with you. Can you play a game with me?" Chapter 39 Suyuanming. Looking at this message with strong desire, Yang Mu raised his eyebrows, realizing that the other party wanted to challenge him. After all, when every master suddenly appeared, there would always be someone who wanted to test the waters. Yang Mu did not take it seriously and replied with a message. "Sorry, I'm going to log off. Let's play next time." As soon as the message was sent, the other party immediately replied to Yang Mu's message. "Just one game, I really want to play with you. One-on-one challenge is fine. It won't waste too much of your time." Yang Mu looked at the message sent by the other party and was about to refuse again, but the other party sent another message. "Well, okay, let's talk about it next time, but you can make an appointment." Seeing that the other party actually said this, Yang Mu suddenly became interested. Regardless of whether the other party was playing hard to get, Yang Mu always felt that the other party was not obsessed with asking him to play a game with him, which was an interesting person in itself, so Yang Mu sent a message of agreement. "Okay, let's play one-on-one now." In the manor on the capital planet, the boy sitting in the game cabin placed in the corner of the huge bedroom shouted excitedly, and then quickly opened a room and invited the other party to play a game. However, the boy's game cabin was slightly different. In this game cabin, the boy's feet were wearing metal shoe covers, which were directly covered to the thighs, and then the metal shoe covers were connected to the game cabin with wires. It seems that this boy with lower limb paralysis has also made great efforts behind the scenes to play this game, especially for such a game that requires the use of both hands and feet. At this time, Yang Mu also greeted Jia Hao, and then clicked to agree. The light on the helmet flashed again, and the two came to the same battle preparation room, and Yang Mu was finally able to talk to the boy here. Hello, my name is Su Yuanming, Su of the Breeze, Yuan of the Abyss, and Ming of Tomorrow. Before Yang Mu spoke, the other party was very active and introduced himself first. Hello, my last name is Yang, I won't tell you anything else, Yang Mu said. Although the other party seemed very sincere, in the internet environment, Yang Mu still didn't dare to get too much information from the other party. Okay, Mr. Yang, thank you for accepting my request. The other party seemed to realize this. After introducing himself, he didn't continue to talk about this topic, but started to ask Yang Mu what mecha he used. What mecha do you use? This is an advanced training room, I opened it, and many types of mecha can be used in it. Yang Mu felt that the local tyrant in front of him was quite polite, and Yang Mu had never met him before, but he showed such respect. No, there must be something wrong when things are abnormal. Yang Mu was alert and didn't do anything too excited because of the other party's words. I apologize here. The original video that made you popular on the forum last time was posted by me. I just wrote it down on impulse, but I didn't expect it to cause such a big stir. Sorry, Yang Mu was a little surprised. It turned out that the culprit who made him the focus of the forum was the guy in front of him. This is really. Then use this one. Although Yang Mu was quite unbelievable in his heart, he pretended to be very indifferent on the surface. He stretched out his hand to pull out the display light screen, swiped a few times, and chose a mecha with a red paint on it, Tamron. This is a mecha model built based on the appearance of PAJR's current Tiger Ben mecha, but it is only the appearance that is more realistic. The internal structure is completely designed with reference to the previous generation of PAJR's retired mecha. It is completely a thing to fool a layman. So for professionals like Yang Mu, they naturally sneer at it, but in such an occasion, no matter where the other party is from, Yang Mu still chooses such a mecha with comprehensive performance. In fact, it was just because Yang Mu had feelings for this kind of mecha, and Yang Mu didn't have the use of such a model. Although the performance is not very good, the price of this game mecha is several thousand yen Hong coins each. Although Yang Mu wants to play, he is a student now, and a penny is a problem for passionate young people. The boy named Su Yuanming saw that Yang Mu chose this mecha, and he also pulled open the display screen on one side. He actually chose the same mecha as Yang Mu, and then spoke. Although the appearance of Tamron is good looking, the design of the cockpit is too backward. It is completely covered with an advanced shell and uses an old operating system. Although it is copied from our country's ordinary active Tiger mecha, it is really ugly. Oh? Are you also a PAJR? Yang Mu asked. That's right. Hey, it turns out that Mr. Yang is also a family member. Ha. Su Yuanming responded, suddenly realizing the meaning of Yang Mu's words, and said with a smile, and his tone became more excited. Yang Mu realized that his words had some flaws, but when he heard that the other party was also a PAJR, Yang Mu smiled knowingly, and his favorability towards the other party increased a little. However, Yang Mu did not show it, just said turned around and entered the summoned mecha, and prepared for the battle. Su Yuanming saw that Yang Mu was ready, and did not say much, and immediately stood in the same mecha next to him. After the battle preparations were completed, the two mechas stood at both ends of the empty pure white training room. Yang Mu put away the Tamron kinetic rifle, and the hands that controlled the mecha drew out the two long swords behind him. The long swords were connected to the power supply, and blue arcs jumped on the swords. Melee? Then I will be direct. Su Yuanming saw Yang Mu silently draw out the long sword, and immediately responded, and also drew out the two long swords behind his mecha, and the blue arcs also jumped. Seeing that the opponent had set up his stance, Yang Mu didn't say much nonsense, picked up his two swords, preheated the mecha engine, and attacked the opponent directly. Yang Mu didn't want to pretend to be a big shot in front of the opponent, but just regarded this as something he promised the other party, so he did his best to complete it. So when the battle started, Yang Mu used all his strength. The Tenglong controlled by Yang Mu rushed to the opponent at a fast speed, and the opponent was not to be outdone, and also controlled the mecha to rush towards Yang Mu. Yang Mu calmly controlled the mecha, and when the two sides were about to touch, the movement of his hands changed. The longsword in his left hand was in a slashing shape, and the longsword in his right hand was in a stabbing shape, and he launched a fierce attack on the opponent. Yang Mu's skilled operation made all this happen in a flash, and even the longsword produced an afterimage. Clang, the sound of metal clashing came from the channel. Yang Mu's long sword touched Su Yuanming's long sword. The sword that was swinging with his left hand was directly blocked by the sword of the opponent's right hand, and the sword that was thrusting forward with his right hand was stuck by the long sword of the opponent's left hand. The mecha arm manipulated the long sword to draw a few arcs, and Yang Mu's sword just missed. Yang Mu was stunned when he saw this scene. It seems that the person in front of him is not just a rich boy, but also a game master. At least Yang Mu thought so when the opponent easily resolved his attack. Chapter 40 Defeat. The confrontation between the two mechas ended in an instant. Yang Mu manipulated the mecha to stagger with Su Yuanming and distanced himself from the opponent again. At this time, Yang Mu began to face the opponent in front of him in a real sense. But what Yang Mu didn't know was that Su Yuanming, who was sitting in the game cabin at this moment, also showed a shocked expression. Although Su Yuanming was prepared for Yang Mu's attack, he didn't expect that he could hardly resist it with just the first attack. And because of his physical condition, Su Yuanming has always paid more attention to training the control ability of the mecha's arms, hoping to make up for the defects of his lower limbs. It is precisely because of this that Su Yuanming can dissolve the attack when Yang Mu's attack comes. But it was this confrontation that also made Su Yuanming understand the strength of the person in front of him, which was really terrifying. Tao Yuanming took a deep breath, silently turned the mecha around, and faced Yang Mu's mecha with full concentration. All the performance of the two mechas is almost exactly the same, so now the test is the control ability of both sides over the mecha and the level of the mecha's fighting skills. After Yang Mu stood firm, he launched another attack. Yang Mu was an absolute offensive priority. For every battle, whether in the game or in reality, Yang Mu adhered to this concept. Seize the opportunity, and you will seize everything. It is precisely because of this that Yang Mu has trained his moves to be fast, accurate and ruthless in the operation of mechas for so many years, in order to gain the upper hand and kill with one blow, so that he will not easily fall into a passive situation. Yang Mu's fierce attack came again, but this time Yang Mu had already explored some of the opponent's strength, so at this time, both knives in his hands were held straight, and the mecha maintained a posture of stabbing the opponent. Su Yuanming seemed to be aware of the change in Yang Mu's moves, so he controlled the mecha to swing the double knives and counterattack. But Yang Mu's goal was not simply to control the mecha to launch a long knife-stabbing attack. But the opponent counterattacked his own body changes. With such a straight stabbing attack, the opponent can only do two things. One is to control the mecha to dodge, or use a long knife to pick up his long knife, and then give himself a counterattack. However, both methods will produce a change, that is, the posture of the fuselage will change, and as long as the fuselage changes, you will have a chance. Su Yuanming chose the latter, raised his long sword and faced Yang Mu directly, and Yang Mu was waiting for his choice. In the meantime, the longsword in Su Yuanming's mecha drew a small circle to pick up Yang Mu's long sword, and then pulled out his left hand, swung the blade horizontally, and prepared to chop at Yang Mu's mecha. But Yang Mu's mecha also changed at this time, moving his legs to turn sideways, retracting his hands that had stabbed out, and the longsword in his right hand was closest to the opponent, so at the same time, he also twisted the blade and chopped it diagonally. Clang! There was another sound of metal collision, but this time it was very effective. Su Yuanming did not realize that Yang Mu's body suddenly changed greatly, so he had to hastily resist the longsword in Yang Mu's right hand. So the head of the mecha was chopped a little, but at this time Yang Mu's hand did not stop, and the longsword in his left hand became horizontal, and directly inserted into the opponent's cockpit exposed by the horizontal block. Su Yuanming finally realized Yang Mu's purpose, and no longer cared about the longsword above his head, but retreated violently. Yang Mu's mecha stood still the next moment, while Su Yuanming's mecha retreated several steps before standing still. But in just a moment, Yang Mu launched another attack, and the mecha rushed towards Su Yuanming's mecha again, but this time Yang Mu's mouth was grinning, because in the previous confrontation, Yang Mu had found the opponent's flaw. The opponent didn't know what was going on, but the lower limbs of the mecha seemed to rely heavily on the auxiliary jets behind the legs of the mecha to stabilize its body shape. Although the movement looked no different from that of an ordinary mecha, the pace was always small, and it seemed to move very cautiously for some reason. The opponent obviously didn't like to move the mecha, so this was a big flaw in close combat. Now that the flaw was found, the next operation was simple. Yang Mu rushed straight forward, and when the mecha was about to make contact, he raised his mecha backwards, stretched out the longsword in his left hand to directly block the opponent's longsword attack, and at the same time manipulated the mecha to squat down, stretched out his left leg, and supported the body with a long sword in his right hand inserted into the ground. Yang Mu gave the opponent a mecha version of a sweeping kick. The opponent was obviously a little flustered by Yang Mu's series of actions. He turned the jet force of the mecha's main engine to the maximum regardless of anything, and manipulated the mecha to fly into the air, ready to avoid Yang Mu's attack. But how could Yang Mu let this opponent go when his position was in chaos? The jet port behind him was also fully turned on, manipulating the mecha to rush upwards, and the two long swords in his hands were raised and crossed, and the arc flashed, directly cutting the opponent's lower half. Su Yuanming's two mechas fell to the ground, making a clanging sound, and Yang Mu manipulated the mecha to land next to it. With this, the battle ended. Everything seemed to happen in a flash, so fast that Su Yuanming couldn't believe he had lost. Well, it seems that your skills need to be improved. I'm going offline first, Yang Mu said in the channel when he saw that the battle was over, and then clicked the cursor to exit the room. Hey, wait, Su Yuanming, who was still immersed in the battle, reacted at this time and was about to say something anxiously, but Yang Mu had already exited the room. Su Yuanming stayed alone in the training room. The game simulation body climbed out of the mecha and looked at the mecha in front of him that had been split into two, and fell into deep thought. The opponent's actions were not very clever, but they were fast and powerful, and the timing of the attack was very appropriate, which made him lose his composure step by step, and finally he was found to be directly killed by him. After going through all this, Su Yuanming now admired Yang Mu even more. Before, Su Yuanming still had such an unbelieving attitude, but now, Su Yuanming felt that in this game, this boy surnamed Yang, in terms of close combat, if he used this ordinary mecha, he would probably be among the top few in the game, and it would be difficult to defeat him. What's more, the other party had previously used ordinary mechas to kill fantasy mechas. After staying in the room for a few more minutes, Su Yuanming left the room with a sense of unsatisfaction, and on the projection computer on his desk, a small video had popped up at this time. It was the battle video that Su Yuanming had just recorded. Yang Mu left the room, sent a message to Jiao Hao who was still in the game, and then directly quit the game. He opened the game cabin and took off the holographic helmet. The noisy sound in the internet cafe came again. Yang Mu let out a deep breath and then stood up from the game cabin. A few minutes later, Yang Mu and Jiao Hao, who had quit the game, left the internet cafe together and went home together. However, Jiao Hao stayed around Yang Mu and kept talking about the magical operations he saw Yang Mu perform in the game. Under the setting sun, the two slowly left, and their shadows gradually lengthened. At this time, someone had already made a video of Yang Mu and posted it on the forum. For a time, the forum was once again in turmoil. Chapter 41 Cuz. Brother, look, I won a prize. When it was about to get dark, Yang Mu finally returned home. As soon as he entered the house, Lei Hong ran over excitedly like a kitten smelling fish, and put a certificate in front of Yang Mu. Yang Mu had just taken off his shoes when he saw Lei Hong's eyes hoping for praise. He put his school bag aside, took the certificate with a smile, and carefully read the words on it. Little Lei Hong won the first place in the elementary school group of the 27th King Fang Children's Palace individual basketball tournament. Yang Mu raised his eyebrows, with an appreciative expression on his face. He squatted down and looked at Lei Hong with a smile, stretched out his hand to pinch his little face, and then touched his head and said, "Lei Hong is awesome. How do you want your brother to reward you?" Lei Hong looked at Yang Mu with a smile of success, and asked, "Of course I will give you a reward, but it must be separate from the birthday present." Yang Mu knew what was on his mind when he saw that, and laughed. Lei Hong was not as mature as Lei Ming. Although Lei Hong and Lei Ming were only 1 year apart, they were much more playful, especially in their love of toys. There were toys scattered in every corner of the living room. Although they both had toys, most of them were Lei Hong's. Not only that, this little guy had been obsessed with Yang Mu's mecha model since I didn't know when. Yang Mu didn't let him play with his own, so he pestered everyone in the family to buy him one. Even Lei Ming, who was only 1 year older than him, bought him a mecha model. Now it seems that this little guy must want to give him a mecha model, but he just hasn't decided which one he wants. However, seeing that Lei Hong didn't say anything, Yang Mu didn't say much, but just kept this in mind. Of course, it is impossible to give the models in his collection to an 8-year-old kid, at least not now. Yang Mu touched Lei Hong's head again, and then pushed him to go inside. "You're back, hurry up, get ready for dinner." Yang's mother in the kitchen saw Yang Mu coming back and immediately said, and also greeted Lei Shangwu, who was sitting in the living room watching TV. Lei Shangwu responded and immediately got up to help Yang's mother clean up the table. Lei Ming, who was lying on the sofa, saw Lei Hong showing off his certificate to Yang Mu, but pouted and said a little unhappy. "Lei Hong, are you so proud?" The teacher said that studying well is worthy of praise, Lei Ming added weakly, but he couldn't hide the envy in his eyes. Seeing Lei Ming's sour expression, Yang Mu immediately stepped forward to encourage him, and promised to reward Lei Ming if he got good grades in the final exam. Lei Ming's pouting mouth finally relaxed. After dinner, Yang Mu was still driven back to his room by his mother. Yang Mu took out his homework and wanted to do it, but sitting on the desk, Yang Mu was a little uneasy, always feeling that his heart was in a mess. What happened this afternoon always made Yang Mu's mind ring with the scene of Yu Wenqiu's loud roar, and the scene of Yu Wenqiu's father holding him in pain. It's not that Yang Mu is too sentimental, but such a scene makes Yang Mu feel a little sympathetic. But Yang Mu couldn't tell where the sympathy was. Shaking his head, Yang Mu forced himself not to think about these things, but noticed that there was a message on his watch at this time. Yang Mu opened it and saw that the message was sent by Chen Ke not long ago. "Yang Mu, are you there?" Yang Mu looked at the message above and immediately became energetic, and quickly sent a message. "What's wrong? Is there anything?" After a while, Chen Ke replied to the message. "Come to my apartment tomorrow and do me a favor." It was the first time that Yang Mu saw Chen Ke asking him for help like this. He was confused, but he agreed immediately. "Okay, when? Just wait for me at my apartment after school this afternoon." "Okay, that's it, I'm going to study." After Yang Mu agreed to Chen Ke immediately ended the topic, which caught Yang Mu off guard. He felt a little itchy in his heart, and his fingers stayed on the input screen for a long time, but he still chose to give up, let out a deep breath, and put the watch aside. It seems that he was too impulsive, which made Chen Ke feel alienated from him. Yang Mu turned up the music on the computer a little depressed, and then forced himself to listen to music and do homework, slowly getting into the state, and continuing to study hard. It was not until the clock pointed to 10 o'clock that Yang Mu stretched, wiped his eyes, stood up and exercised. Yang Mu, who was quite tired, walked out of the room, went to the bathroom to wash up, and then returned to the room, turned off the lights and lay down on the bed. Today, Yang Mu experienced many things and was very tired. Soon, Yang Mu fell into deep sleep, and at this time, the subspace necklace on Yang Mu's neck slowly lit up with a blue light. In his dream, Yang Mu always felt that his body was floating in a void. He stood up, opened his eyes and looked around, but everything he saw was gray. Yang Mu tried to walk forward a few steps, but he felt his hands and feet were weak. "Don't worry, it's just a dream, just a dream." Yang Mu comforted himself in his heart, then closed his eyes suddenly, and then opened them again, but there was still a gray in front of him. Yang Mu closed his eyes hard again, opened his eyes, and this time, Yang Mu saw a figure in the distance, walking slowly towards him. When the figure came closer, Yang Mu squinted his eyes and looked carefully. When the other person's facial outline came into his eyes, Yang Mu's eyes suddenly widened. Because not far in front of Yang Mu, there was a person standing. It was the 37-year-old Yang Mu who died together with his Zerg queen. This Yang Mu was wearing a space combat uniform and was looking at Yang Mu with a smile. "Hello, Yang Mu, you are me." Yang Mu looked at the other self in front of him with some surprise and asked with mixed feelings. But the Yang Mu shook his head and said with a smile, "No, this is not me. My name is Kuz. To be precise, I just used your body to pass something to you here." "Things? What?" Although Yang Mu could ask this calmly, he was still a little scared. Looking at the familiar face of the other person, Yang Mu was indescribably panicked. This Yang Mu seemed to see the tension on Yang Mu's face. Without saying anything, he raised his right hand, opened his 5 fingers and lifted it up, and a floating model appeared in his hand. "Are you familiar with this thing?" The guy who called himself Kuz turned his head and looked at Yang Mu, and said slowly. Yang Mu's eyes gradually focused on the model, and an extremely surprised expression suddenly appeared on his face. Even a little horrified. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 42, Dream or Reality? The reason why Yang Mu's expression was so shocked was because the thing in the other party's hand was the design of the strange warship that he saw in the Annihilation mech yesterday afternoon. But now it appeared inexplicably in the other party's hand. Who are you? Yang Mu's expression on his face instantly became a little frozen, and his eyes looked straight at the other party, and then asked in a deep voice, with a hint of murderous intent in his tone. Regardless of whether it was a dream or not, Yang Mu saw that the other party actually had the blueprint in the Annihilation in his hand. This matter revealed too much weirdness, making Yang Mu feel goosebumps all over his body. Don't be surprised, these things are not actually stolen from your mecha. To be precise, these things are actually placed in your mecha by me, Cuz saw Yang Mu's sudden change of mood, but still said lightly, comforting Yang Mu's emotions. Yang Mu looked at the expression on the other party's face and felt that his face was looking at him. Compared with talking to himself in the mirror, Yang Mu was really uncomfortable. However, Yang Mu suddenly realized that there was something different in the other party's words. These things, Yang Mu asked in surprise, and suddenly remembered that he seemed to have seen many drawings in the folder of the mecha. Are all the things in that folder drawings like this? Yang Mu asked doubtfully. Yes, these are the things, Cuz still said in a calm tone, but the movement of his hands changed, and he drew an arc forward. Many blue models suddenly rose around Cuz, all kinds of them, floating and rotating in the air. Drawings of warships at all levels, drawings of various mechas, and drawings of various tactics, production line drawings, all made to resist the Zerg. Yang Mu looked at such a scene and heard the various drawings mentioned by the other party, and was immediately shocked again. These things are all drawings, and they are all for you. Yang Mu heard this and recovered from his shock. He asked in surprise, for me? What do you mean? It means that these things in front of you are all things you need to learn, Cuz said lightly. But these things are a little complicated, but you must remember them, so I will use another way to make them appear directly in your mind. Cuz's calm voice had not yet fallen, and he waved his right hand, and the models that were originally floating and rotating around Cuz immediately flew towards Yang Mu. Yang Mu saw these models rushing towards him, and instinctively raised his hands to block the flying models, but found that these things actually went directly through his arms and then sank into his head one by one. All these models entered Yang Mu's mind, but Yang Mu did not feel any discomfort. Instead, he looked at the other party in shock and fear, and asked, where are those things? What are you going to do? Cuz smiled but did not say anything, but instead spoke to himself. Yang Mu, have you ever thought about why you appeared when you were 17 years old? Cuz suddenly asked a question, interrupting Yang Mu's original thoughts. Hearing the other party's answer, Yang Mu felt that the person in front of him was extremely annoying. Ask me? I want to ask you this question. Yang Mu shook his head, walked forward quickly, stood in front of the other party, and stared straight at the very familiar face in front of him. I ask you, who are you and why do you appear in my mind? Or rather, this is just a dream, and you are just an absurd idea in my dream. Yang Mu asked the other party loudly, his chest heaving with anger, and Qzi seemed to stop talking because of Yang Mu's words. The two stood face to face, looking at each other, but Yang Mu could not read any information from the other party's unusually calm eyes. Qzi's eyes were also looking at Yang Mu, but after hearing Yang Mu's question, they gradually became deeper, and the smile at the corner of his mouth slowly disappeared. Yang Mu, do you know what all this that you are experiencing now, all this that seems incredible to you, actually means? What does it mean? Only a ghost knows. I tell you, even if these are true, it is useless, impossible, everything is in vain, humans in front of the Zerg, just like, Yang Mu responded to the other party in a tough tone, but suddenly paused here, pursed his lips, lowered his head, and then raised it, just looking at the other party with burning eyes, and did not say anything more. Listening to Yang Mu's words, Cuz continued, that was just your original idea, it may not work, but have you ever thought that when you have these things just now, will everything be different? The fate of mankind may also be led to another place because of everything you know. Cuz stretched out his hand and pointed at Yang Mu's brain. Maybe you are the savior. Yang Mu listened to the other party's words without any emotion, frowned, and turned his eyes to carefully scan the other party. Yang Mu silently comforted himself in his heart, thinking that this was just a dream, and he was just having an illusory dream. Yang Mu's mouth just curled up, wanting to overcome this nightmare in the dream, but Cuz spoke first. Yang Mu, why not try to do it, even if it's not for yourself, but for your family, friends, and your loved ones? The next moment, Cuz's right hand suddenly pushed Yang Mu away, and Yang Mu's body couldn't help falling backwards, but finally suspended in the air. Yang Mu raised his head and looked at the other party in great surprise. We will meet again, I hope you will have other ideas by then, Cuz smiled and said. Then his figure slowly disappeared, and the whole room returned to peace again. Yang Mu looked around, trying to find the other person's figure again, but suddenly felt something wrong. Yang Mu was surprised to find that the space he was in began to turn black, and then he could no longer feel the feeling of being lifted up, but his whole body fell down. Falling down, it seemed like in a bottomless pit. Yang Mu suddenly opened his eyes and found that the blanket that was originally on him had fallen to the ground, and the moonlight was shining into this quiet little room. It seemed to be a dream. Yang Mu was breathing heavily and was about to sit up and go to the bathroom to wash his face, but just as he propped up his upper body, Yang Mu felt an inexplicable twitch deep in his head, and a huge pain came over him. The pain came from the inside out, and it was endless, as if it was going to tear Yang Mu's skull apart. Yang Mu let out a painful roar, and fell on the bed with his hands covering his head. He hunched his body, and beads of sweat oozed out of his face with bulging veins. A quarter of an hour later, Yang Mu's roar gradually disappeared, and at this time, the somewhat weak Yang Mu only felt that there were some extra things in his mind. Some impressive drawings with extremely clear details. Chapter 43 Thoughts. Xiao Mu, you didn't take your school bag. Yang Mu, who had just come out of the door, was stopped by Yang's mother. Only then did he realize that he didn't take his school bag. Yang's mother, still wearing an apron, walked up quickly and handed the school bag to Yang Mu. Seeing Yang Mu's absent-minded and exhausted expression, Yang's mother thought that Yang Mu was too tired from studying too much, so she looked at Yang Mu with concern and said with some worry, Xiao Mu, don't put too much pressure on yourself. Relax more when you are tired from studying. Mom is also worried when she sees you like this. Yang Mu saw his mother's worried look, pursed his lips, shook his head, took the school bag handed by his mother, and said with a smile, Mom, it's okay, I just didn't sleep well last night. Why didn't you sleep well? Yang's mother looked a little worried and asked with concern. Nothing, hey, you should go back soon, I'm going to be late for school. Yang Mu didn't know how to explain it at once, but just vaguely got on the bicycle, urged Yang's mother to go back, and rode away on the hover bike. Be careful, go slowly, Mother Yang shouted at Yang Mu, who was riding away at the gate of the courtyard. Seeing Yang Mu leaving, she sighed meaningfully. As Yang Mu's mother, how could she not see Yang Mu's different state now? However, Mother Yang always felt some unspeakable guilt towards Yang Mu. Last night, Yang Mu completely overturned all of his previous worldviews. Even in this era of highly developed technology, or in the various cutting-edge technologies 20 years later, Yang Mu had never seen such a thing. He could pour so much complex and tedious knowledge directly into his brain in one night, and he could remember every detail very clearly. Now, as long as Yang Mu thought of any of the drawings in his mind, every detail in it would surge up from his mind. As long as Yang Mu wanted to know one of the small structures, his mind seemed to analyze it immediately, and the detailed structure diagram of the part would be displayed in Yang Mu's mind. That was a nearly 2-kilometer-long super-interstellar carrier, with thousands of structural components, but all of them were in Yang Mu's mind, without missing a single detail. It seemed that he had become a super-engineer in an instant, but the fact was that he was still just a high school student carrying a school bag to school. This feeling was really too weird and too unreal. Last night, Yang Mu hardly slept after he recovered. All those detailed design drawings kept popping up in his mind, and they appeared in Yang Mu's mind all the time, so Yang Mu was a little dazed until the morning. Riding a bicycle, Yang Mu shook his brain hard again, cleared the things in his mind, and rode the bike with full concentration. When he arrived at school, Yang Mu walked into the classroom as usual, but before he sat down in his seat, Jia Hao next to him immediately grabbed Yang Mu. Yang Mu turned around, and Jia Hao stood up stealthily, leaned next to Yang Mu and said, Hey, Mu Shui, have you heard? What did you hear? Jia Hao pulled Yang Mu to sit down, his face full of smugness, and whispered to Yang Mu, I just heard from the class next door this morning that Yu Wenqiu is really related to our school leaders. Yang Mu glanced at Jia Hao's interested look, put down his school bag, and took out the things inside. Ah. So, Jia Hao saw that Yang Mu was not surprised at all. His eyes widened, and he said in surprise. Wow, boss, you are not surprised at all. Hey, boss, do you know? I heard that Yu Wenqiu called our school's dean of teaching uncle, and Yu Wenqiu's father used to be an old comrade in arms of Director Ma, and it seems that he was also an officer. It seems that Yu Wenqiu's relationship with Director Ma is quite powerful. The police came yesterday, but Yu Wenqiu still came to school today. What? Are you still hoping that something will happen to him? Yang Mu raised his eyebrows and said. Well, that's not what I think, but it's still intriguing. Jia Hao laughed. Where did you get this information? Yang Mu put his things away, turned around and looked at Jia Hao, and asked in confusion. As for Yu Wenqiu, Yang Mu had a different opinion of him since yesterday afternoon. Although he couldn't say he sympathized with him, he respected Yu Wenqiu's attitude towards his father. Oh, Fat Tiger from the next class was forced by his mother, who is a teacher, to write a test paper in the office yesterday, and he heard the noise in the reception room, and do you know? Yu Wenqiu's father is amazing. Guess, a retired military officer? He used to serve in some high-level military branch on the Blue Sea Star, right? Yang Mu also heard something yesterday, and Director Ma seemed to have a great background, so he said so immediately. No, his father is not an officer of our new Star Region Army. He is a senior officer from the capital Star Region, but I don't know what kind of officer he is. Yang Mu was really excited when he heard this. He looked up at Jia Hao and said in confusion, such a high level? What's the situation? Then I don't know. Something must have happened. Jia Hao shook his head and said helplessly. At this time, the bell rang. Yang Mu turned around and sat up straight, looking at the blackboard, but suddenly some ideas came to his mind. Yu Wenqiu's current family situation does not seem to be very optimistic, but he can help. If possible, he can ask Uncle Lei to help arrange a light job for his father, at least he will have an income. Yang Mu thought so, and made up his mind to talk to Yu Wenqiu tomorrow. Regardless of whether he was worrying for nothing, Yang Mu felt that he could do something, which was always good. At this time, the teacher also came in. Today was a class test, and it was also a preparatory exam for the big test in 2 days. Yang Mu had to cheer up and go to class. After a busy day, Jia Hao followed Yang Mu on his bicycle and walked out of the school. Hey Ozzy, help me do something. Ah. What is it? Jia Hao asked. Please ask Yu Wenqiu out tomorrow. I have something to tell him, Yang Mu said to Jia Hao seriously. Ah. Ask him out. What is it? Jia Hao stopped the bike, pushed the ground, and asked in confusion. You don't need to ask, I have something to ask him. Oh, by the way, you go back first, I have something to do here. Something? What is it? Jia Hao asked with a confused look on his face. Yang Mu just smiled and didn't reply to Jia Hao. Yang Mu naturally wouldn't tell him that it was Chen Kei's business. He just fooled him and let Jia Hao go back alone. He rode his bike towards the big market. While riding, Yang Mu had some questions in his mind. Chen Kei, who had always been very stubborn, actually asked him for help. What could it be? Chapter 44 Trouble. Riding his bike, Yang Mu hurried all the way to the apartment where Chen Kei rented. Chen Kei was already downstairs at this time, but she was just moving things. Yang Mu rode his bike over, put his bike aside, and hurried forward to help. Chen Kei, who was carrying things, saw that it was Yang Mu, and suddenly a nervous expression appeared on her face. Seeing that it was Yang Mu, she became much more relaxed. Yang Mu, you are really on time. Chen Kei and Yang Mu put the things on the hovercraft next to them, wiping their sweat and said. Yang Mu stepped back, looked at the truck and the miscellaneous things on it, and asked with some doubt, Chen Kei, what are you doing? Moving? Yes, I found a new place, and there are a lot of things, so I asked you to come over today to help. Chen Kei saw that Yang Mu looked confused, and patted Yang Mu. Okay, I'll treat you to dinner later. Go upstairs and move the things. I asked Brother Wei to come and help. Yang Mu scratched his head and hurried upstairs with Chen Kei's push and pull, while Brother Wei was pushing a wooden cabinet out the door. Hey, Zai okay, you called your boyfriend over. Come on, come and help. Brother Wei saw that it was Yang Mu and hurriedly called him. Chen Kei pursed her lips when she heard Brother Wei's words, but did not speak. Yang Mu walked up to help without saying a word, helped to move the things down, and then moved them to the hovercraft. After taking a breath, Yang Mu wiped the sweat from his temples and talked to Brother Wei next to him. Brother Wei, what's wrong with Chen Ke? Why are you moving all of a sudden? Brother Wei fixed the things, looked up at Yang Mu, and then looked at the door of the apartment and sighed. Oh, it's not easy for a young girl. Yang Mu was confused when he heard it, and Brother Wei continued to talk. Xiao Ke is in trouble. Alice, it's my fault. If I hadn't asked Chen Ke to come to work that day, there wouldn't be such a thing now. Brother Wei shook his head and said with some regret. Yang Mu was nervous when he heard this, and asked hurriedly. What's the matter? What happened to Gadir? Brother Wei looked at the nervous and anxious expression on Yang Mu's face, but he didn't hide it and told everything. It was a group of thugs from the market. They came to my store to collect protection fees that day. Chen Ke happened to be working next to her and was spotted by the thug leader Luke. What? Yang Mu said loudly, with a hint of anger on his face. Is Gadir okay now? Brother Wei quickly asked Yang Mu to lower his voice and said helplessly. It's okay now, but it's hard to say in the future. Who told us ordinary people that we don't have the ability to settle this matter? We can only let Chen Ke move to another place. It's not safe for a little girl to live alone. Brother Wei said this, but also sighed. You are Xiao Ke's boyfriend, so you shouldn't let a little girl like her work here. Young man, do you understand what I mean? Brother Wei patted Yang Mu's shoulder, looked into Yang Mu's eyes and said earnestly, then lowered his head and beckoned Yang Mu to go upstairs with him to continue moving things. Yang Mu stood there for a moment, frowned, and went upstairs to help move things. Chen Ke saw Yang Mu's face change a little when he came up, and her eyes were a little afraid to look at Yang Mu, and her expression on her face became a little embarrassed. And she went downstairs with the things she packed. Yang Mu didn't say anything, but just bent down and picked up the last mattress, and carried it downstairs with Brother Wei. Just as Yang Mu and Brother Wei were carrying the mattress downstairs, before they reached the first floor, they suddenly heard the scream of Chen Ke who had just stepped downstairs. Yang Mu and Brother Wei quickly put down the mattress and ran downstairs, only to see several gangsters standing at the door of the apartment surrounding Chen Ke, and one of the men was pulling Chen Ke. Yang Mu hurriedly stepped forward, pushed away the gangsters surrounding him, and protected Chen Ke behind him. What are you doing? Yang Mu looked at the gangsters in front of him with ill intentions and said in a deep voice. A guy who looked like a big brother came out from among the gangsters, looked at Yang Mu with a sidelong look, pointed at Yang Mu and said with a smile. Nothing, just communicate with this little sister. Where did you come from? Go back where you came from. Get out of here, don't get in the way of the men. Chen Ke hid behind Yang Mu and grabbed the corner of Yang Mu's clothes. Yang Mu could even feel Chen Ke trembling. Brother Wei next to him also rushed in and smiled at the gangsters. You are the Luke, right? I advise you to leave now and don't bother us anymore, Yang Mu said coldly. The leading gangster heard it, pushed Brother Wei away, and walked to Yang Mu with a glare, with a very arrogant expression on his face. Damn. What do you want, kid? Are you going to be a hero and save the beauty? Haha, do you think he has the ability to do that? The little brat's hair hasn't even grown out yet. Go home and drink milk. The thugs next to him burst into laughter, but Yang Mu just stretched out his hand to protect Chen Ke, looking at him seriously. I'll say it again, if you leave now, I won't do anything to you. The leader of the thugs laughed even louder when he heard this, walked up arrogantly, and said to Yang Mu jokingly. I'm not leaving yet, let's see what you can do to me. Before he finished speaking, the thug's face became more ferocious, and he suddenly waved his fist to hit Yang Mu in the face. Chen Ke screamed in fear, and Yang Mu protected Chen Ke and took a few steps back. Seeing that his fist missed, Luke's expression became more fierce, and he waved his fist at Yang Mu's face again. Seeing the opponent's fist coming towards his face, Yang Mu immediately made a move with his hands, grabbed the opponent's fist directly, and then pulled it hard. The opponent kept leaning towards him. Yang Mu bent his left hand and hit the opponent's cheek directly with his elbow. Ah! The opponent screamed and ran to the side, covering his face, looking at Yang Mu fiercely, and shouted. Dallin! Beat him for me. At this time, a short man came out from among the gangsters. He was about 1.5 meters tall and took off his shirt, revealing his muscular body. This guy named Dallin didn't say a word. He looked at Yang Mu and attacked Yang Mu directly. His fists were so fast that he could feel the wind coming from them. This guy is not simple. This thought flashed through Yang Mu's mind. Yang Mu pushed Chen Kai away and leaned forward. He crossed his fists to block the opponent's fists, but was shocked by the opponent's fists and stepped back several steps. This guy has a second-level physique, which is bad. Yang Mu immediately realized that the other party was a guy with a second-level physique, and he was just a person who might not even have a first-level physique. Without the help of the mechanical arm, he might suffer a great loss. Seeing that Yang Mu blocked his attack, the other party did not miss any opportunity and rushed up again. Yang Mu had to grit his teeth and rushed up. Another attack made Yang Mu unable to resist. The opponent's movements were very vicious, and each punch was fast and fierce. He wanted to use military fighting techniques to clamp the opponent, but he couldn't catch up with the opponent's speed and was blocked by the opponent every time. At this time, Luke rushed towards Chen Kai. Yang Mu saw it but couldn't help because he was facing the crazy attack of this man called Dallin. Brother Wei, who was standing next to him, roared at this time, picked up the bench next to him and rushed to block Luke, but was attacked by several other gangsters and knocked to the ground. What should I do? Yang Mu's eyes were bloodshot, and his brain was frantically thinking of a solution. At this time, Dallin attacked again. Yang Mu blocked the opponent's fist again, but his arms were shocked and numb, and his hands couldn't clench his fists. At this time, Chen Kai screamed. The guy called Luke grabbed Chen Kai's arms and forced Chen Kai to corner next to him with a sly smile. On the ground next to him, Brother Wei was lying on the ground unconscious. What should I do? What should I do now? Yang Mu's mind was spinning wildly, his breathing was getting heavier. Listening to Chen Kai's screams and Luke's unbridled laughter, Yang Mu's heart was beating hard against his chest, his skin began to turn red, and his blood vessels bulged. Yang Mu felt his blood boiling, his consciousness gradually blurred, and another self slowly took over his body. Chapter 45, Rampage. I'm sorry. Can we be good friends? Hey, Yang Mu, you won't be sad, will you? Yang Mu closed his eyes tightly, and various scenes from his memory flashed through his chaotic mind frequently, including the pale face of Chen Kai who was dying during the shipwreck accident, the red eyes of Chen Kai on the rooftop when she looked up at him, and the face of Chen Kai who turned around and puffed up her cheeks when he was lost. No. None of this is allowed. Kahir. I can't lose her again. Absolutely not. Yang Mu, who was standing in place, closed his eyes tightly at this time, and the expression on his face gradually became ferocious. Dallin, who was standing next to him, looked at Yang Mu motionless, but did not hold back, and rushed up to kick him with a whip kick, ready to knock Yang Mu down. But when Dallin's calf was about to touch Yang Mu's body, it suddenly stopped, and the expression on Dallin's face slowly changed from surprise to pain. The reason was that his calf was firmly grasped by Yang Mu's left hand, and Yang Mu's fingers gradually turned wide, and it seemed that he was exerting force on the leg of the gangster Dallin. Dallin tried to pull back his leg, but it didn't move at all. He couldn't bear the increasing pain, so he roared and swung his fist to hit Yang Mu's head. But at this moment, Yang Mu's eyes suddenly opened, and a circle of red lines appeared around his black pupils. Yang Mu's strength in his hands also increased suddenly, and he pulled Dallin's leg forward with force. Dallin couldn't help but take a step forward and was forced to do a split. Before Dallin could recover, Yang Mu's right foot instantly hit Dallin's head, who was doing a split on the ground. Facing the flying foot, Dallin had to endure the pain in his lower body and raise his hands to block in front of himself. Yang Mu kicked down, and a crack sound came from Dallin's hand. At the same time, a muffled groan came out of his mouth, and his whole body flew out directly, hitting the tree next to him, and collapsed under the tree for a while. But at this time, Yang Mu did not stop. He stepped forward quickly and kicked down again, kicking the gangster Dallin in the chest. Dallin was immediately overwhelmed, spit out a mouthful of blood, and fainted completely. All this happened in an instant. When Luke turned his head to look at Yang Mu had already knocked Dallin to the ground completely. Luke's eyes widened instantly. He knew what Dallin's strength was. Although a person with a second-level physique had just been upgraded to a second-level physique, it was impossible for him to be defeated like this. What's more, the person in front of him looked like a powerless high school student. Luke loosened his hands that were holding Chen Kai's arms, turned around and looked at Yang Mu, and immediately winked at the few younger brothers next to him. Several younger brothers understood and rushed towards Yang Mu. Hearing the footsteps coming from the side, Yang Mu turned his body instantly and faced the gangsters rushing in front of him. The next moment, the gangsters shouted and rushed forward, ready to rush up and knock Yang Mu to the ground. But Yang Mu's hands changed quickly, using various moves to knock the gangsters to the ground one after another. The gangsters around Yang Mu began to fall to the ground, covering their bodies with painful expressions. Yang Mu, be careful. Just as Yang Mu kicked the last gangster away, Chen Kei's anxious voice came from behind Yang Mu. Yang Mu turned his head, and before he could see Chen Kei with his red eyes, he was suddenly hit hard on the head. Yang Mu's head buzzed and he immediately knelt on the ground. Yang Mu, Chen Kei screamed, picked up a clothesline on the car and rushed towards Yang Mu. Yang Mu raised his head in a daze, only to see that Luke was standing in front of him, and in his hand, a broken rolling pin was held in his hand, and the other part fell to the ground. Chen Kei rushed over in a hurry, waving a pole to drive Luke away, but Luke kicked her away and she fell heavily to the side, groaning and covering her forehead. Luke looked back at Yang Mu who was kneeling on the ground as if nothing had happened, and spit at Yang Mu with disdain. What the hell, you're ruining my good deeds, eat shit. Looking at Chen Kei lying on the ground, Yang Mu's eyes suddenly turned red, and the red ripples on his pupils appeared, dyeing his entire eyes red. Luke, who was full of ruffian, was about to hit Yang Mu again, but Yang Mu's head suddenly raised up, and his red eyes were so breathtaking that Luke trembled with fear. The next second, Yang Mu stood up and rushed towards Luke at lightning speed, hugged his waist, and threw him heavily to the ground. Luke screamed and struggled to pry open Yang Mu's hands that were wrapped around his waist, but was picked up by Yang Mu fiercely. A 1.8-meter tall student-like man picked up a 1.7-meter tall gangster-like man by the waist, then roared and threw him against the wall of the apartment next to him. Luke screamed in pain when he hit the wall, and Yang Mu, who was standing, strode over with red eyes, grabbed Luke's collar, and dragged Luke out from under the corner of the wall. Luke struggled with fear at this moment, and the expression on his face no longer had the smugness and arrogance just now. Citizens passing by here not far away saw this scene and walked away. Some people stopped and took out their personal terminals to take pictures, and some hurriedly called the police. Yang Mu dragged Luke out and threw him to the open space, sat on his stomach, stared at him, and raised his two fists to hit Luke on the head. Each punch hit the flesh, and there were Luke's screams and Yang Mu's deep voice. No one is allowed to bully. Here, no one is allowed, Yang Mu said woodenly over and over again, and continued to hit the opponent's face with his fist. Luke under him no longer screamed and resisted, and he had obviously fainted. But Yang Mu's fist did not stop. At this time, Chen Kei sat up with difficulty, covering her forehead. In a trance, she saw Yang Mu sitting on Luke's body. The guy who wanted to insult her seemed to have no life. Chen Kei hurriedly stood up, staggered over, and stretched out his hand to pull away Yang Mu who was still waving his fist. But he was thrown away by Yang Mu, and the people watching around were also afraid to step forward because of Yang Mu's murderous aura. Yang Mu. Stop it, Chen Kei was thrown to the ground by Yang Mu. Regardless of her scraped hands, she stood up and shouted to pull Yang Mu away. Yang Mu, stop it, you're going to beat him to death. Chen Kei hugged Yang Mu's right hand, but saw the angry expression on Yang Mu's face. Don't bully, counter. Chen Kei looked at Yang Mu's violent state, crying and screaming, trying to get Yang Mu to turn around, but Yang Mu was still talking to himself. The tears on Chen Kei's face flowed down instantly. She knew that the boy in front of her became like this to prevent herself from getting hurt. She suddenly hugged Yang Mu with both arms, leaned back and pushed Yang Mu down. Yang Mu, I'm here, no one bullies me. Chen Kei hugged Yang Mu's head to her chest, crying and comforting him. No one bullies me. At the door of the shabby apartment, Chen Kei cried and lay on the ground holding Yang Mu. A group of wailing hooligans lay on the ground around them, and a group of onlookers stood not far away. The sound of sirens gradually rang out on the street. Chapter 46 changes. Okay, Zio Mu, I'll leave first if you two are okay. Your sister-in-law called towards you. At the entrance of the emergency department, Brother Wei, who had some white tealing cream on his right cheek, looked at Yang Mu who was using a repair instrument to sew up the wound on his brain, and then looked at Chen Kei who was standing next to Yang Mu and said. Chen Kei turned around, looked at Brother Wei's dirty body, and asked with concern, Brother Wei, are you okay? I'm fine, just a little skin injury, which has been repaired with laser. Brother Wei smiled and shook his head, but glanced at Yang Mu who was receiving treatment. Young man, are you okay? Yang Mu had just returned to consciousness from the previous state not long ago, and he still felt a little groggy now, but he smiled when he heard Brother Wei's words. It's okay, Brother Wei, it's just a small cut, it will be completely healed in 2 days, haha, young man, you are awesome, so many people have been knocked down by you, you are a brave man. Brother Wei saw that Yang Mu was okay, and immediately praised with a smile. Okay, I'll go back first. Why don't you two contact your family to pick you up? Brother Wei said. Yang Mu smiled and nodded, it's okay, we will contact each other later. Brother Wei, you go and do your work. Thank you so much today, hey, it's not a big deal. Zioke should not come to the market these days to avoid the limelight. Brother Wei waved his hand, and then said to Chen Kai in a serious tone. Chen Kai also nodded with her head down, and walked forward to send Brother Wei out. Because Yang Mu's side was self-defense, and because Yang Mu was a minor, the police did not pursue it too much, so they simply recorded a confession and asked Yang Mu and others to come to the hospital. Chen Kai sent Brother Wei away and walked into the emergency department. Seeing that Yang Mu's head had been applied with gel to help the wound heal, she immediately helped Yang Mu out and sat down. How are you now? Chen Kai asked with concern and tenderness. Yang Mu's face suddenly turned red, because at this moment, Chen Kai's posture of supporting Yang Mu made Yang Mu's right elbow touch a trace of tenderness. Yang Mu, who could be considered a virgin for decades, suddenly became absent-minded, and his mind became a little dazed. It's okay, I'm just a little dizzy. Yang Mu showed a shy smile on his face and responded to Chen Kai's words. Although Chen Kai had spoken to him in the same way in the past, Yang Mu could feel the deep concern in her tone. After this incident, Chen Kai seemed to have opened up to Yang Mu. Yang Mu's selfless attitude towards Chen Kai made the ice in Chen Kai's heart slowly melt. Chen Kai looked at Yang Mu's face carefully again, and felt that there was really nothing different, so she was relieved. Yang Mu, today? Chen Kai lowered her head at this time, a little embarrassed, with a hint of guilt in her tone. Yang Mu didn't care, turned his head and looked at Chen Kai with a smile, and lifted a strand of her hair from her forehead. Looking at a bandage on her forehead, he said with some heartache. This is not your problem, Yang Mu said, and then looked at Chen Kai. At this time, Chen Kai, who was listening to Yang Mu's words, also looked up at Yang Mu, and her eyes met with Yang Mu's. The next moment, Chen Kai lowered her head, grabbed Yang Mu's sleeve with her left hand. And the expression on her face gradually became a little crying. I'm sorry, Yang Mu, you wouldn't have been involved, and you wouldn't have been hurt, Chen Kai choked and said. Yang Mu naturally understood why this strong girl in front of him couldn't control her tears at this time. She was usually such a strong person, but today's incident was really too shocking for her. Yang Mu interrupted her and tried to grab Chen Kai's hand with his right hand, and Yang Mu succeeded. Chen Kai's hand was held by Yang Mu, but there was no movement to take it away. This was the first time Yang Mu held Chen Kai's hand in this time and space. It was a little slender, warm and soft. Yang Mu's heart was pounding, but seeing Chen Kai's depressed mood, he turned around and said firmly. No, Kair, if you don't let me come today, I will regret it even more. Also, promise me one thing, don't say sorry in the future, okay? Yang Mu looked at Chen Kai deeply, and Chen Kai also looked up at Yang Mu, stopped the tears that were about to come out of her eyes, and said softly. Looking at Chen Kai beside him, feeling her warm hand in his hand, Yang Mu's heart was impulsive, wanting to express his feelings to Chen Kai again, and opened his mouth, but still held back and didn't say anything. The two sat on the chair outside the emergency department. I don't know how long it took, when it was completely dark outside the window, when Chen Kai's emotions were completely stable, Yang Mu was finally able to leave the hospital with the doctor's permission. Yang Mu stood up and came out with Chen Kai. Kair, do me a favor. Yang Mu took out a student card from his school bag and handed it to Chen Kai. Yang Mu, what are you doing? Chen Kai looked at Yang Mu's actions with a puzzled look on her face, and then realized something and said. PAJR vigorously promoted medical policies in the early years, especially for students, so everyone's student card has a considerable amount of medical insurance, which is enough to pay for general medical expenses. This is also one of the reasons why Yang Mu did not notify his family after he was injured. No, I swiped my student card, and I didn't spend any money. Seeing this, Yang Mu knew that being polite would make him look unfamiliar, So he laughed and said to Chen Kai, "Okay, I'll take advantage of you this time, haha." Chen Kai didn't say anything, pretending to be angry, and helped Yang Mu out of the hospital. Yang Mu hailed a taxi, stood and looked at Chen Kai, and asked hesitantly, Are you going back to your uncle's place today or?" "Go back to my uncle's place, the apartment is a mess now, and I can't live there." Chen Kai lowered his head, seemed to struggle for a moment, and finally said. Yang Mu nodded, let Chen Kai get into the taxi, and he also got in. "I'll take you there," Yang Mu said seriously. Chen Kai glanced at Yang Mu, a knowing smile appeared on the corner of her mouth, and she remained silent, which was considered as her agreement. When they arrived at an old residential area, it was already completely dark. Yang Mu sent Chen Kai downstairs and stopped. "I won't go up," Yang Mu said this hesitantly. Chen Kai looked up at Yang Mu, pursed her lips, and smiled at Yang Mu. Then, "Yang Mu, I'll go up." "Yeah." Yang Mu smiled and nodded, watching Chen Kai walk upstairs. "Yang Mu, you should have a good rest too." Chen Kai turned around and said to Yang Mu, walked up a few steps, and then said, "If you feel uncomfortable, go to the hospital and send me a message." Seeing Chen Kai's concern for him, Yang Mu smiled knowingly and waved his hand to let Chen Kai go up quickly. "Go up quickly, I know all this." After looking at Yang Mu deeply again, Chen Kai said goodbye to Yang Mu. Then he turned around and walked upstairs. Seeing Chen Kai disappear at the corner of the stairs, Yang Mu felt very warm in his heart. He rubbed his right hand and smiled again. Looking up at the apartment building, Yang Mu took a deep breath, stepped back into the taxi, and headed back home. Today, something seemed to have changed. Chapter 47 Help Me. It was another dark day when they returned home. Yang's mother saw the bruises on Yang Mu's face and the wound on his head that had healed under the effect of gel. She felt very distressed and helped Yang Mu. Lei Ming and Lei Hong also came over to ask their brother where he was feeling uncomfortable and what they were going to do. Lei Shengwu's expression was even more serious. He stood beside Yang Mu and asked Yang Mu to tell him who did it. Tomorrow he would take a group of comrades to avenge Yang Mu. The whole family surrounded Yang Mu because of his injury. Yang Mu wanted to make an excuse for falling down, but in the end he slightly modified the original facts and told them that he couldn't bear to see a girl being bullied by gangsters on the road, and he and several people next to him subdued the gangsters and suffered minor injuries. Yang Mu tried his best to make many assurances, and Yang's mother and others accepted this statement with doubts. Yang Mu could only pray in his heart, praying that what happened today would not become some news tomorrow, and the most important thing was not to let his mother and Uncle Lei know. At least not now. At night, because Yang Mu was injured on the head, Yang's mother rarely forced Yang Mu not to study and take a good rest. For this reason, she almost asked Uncle Lei to send a message to the head teacher to ask for a day off for her. In the end, it was under Yang Mu's insistence that she gave up the idea. The next morning, Uncle Lei drove Yang Mu to school and followed him all the way to the classroom. Finally, he repeatedly told Yang Mu not to make too big movements and be careful not to let the wound relapse. After Uncle Lei walked out of the classroom and persuaded the students who gathered around to leave one by one, Yang Mu finally got a brief peace. At this time, Jia Hao next to him came up again, with a look of concern but a little unbelievable. "Mu Shui, don't tell me that you went to fight after you left yesterday." Yang Mu reached out and patted Jia Hao's hair, pretending to be vicious and said, "What are you talking about? Worrying about nothing, do I look like that kind of person? By the way, did you finish the things I asked you to help with yesterday?" Yang Mu recalled what he had told Jia Hao yesterday and asked. Jia Hao waved his hand, a smug expression on his face, patting his chest and saying, "I haven't forgotten. I've already told you once that we'll meet in the cafeteria at noon today." Yang Mu nodded, very satisfied with Jia Hao's speed of doing things. Although Jia Hao usually looks unruly, he never fails at critical moments. But to be honest, I really don't want to see that guy's dead face anymore. He should go to the hospital to see if he has facial paralysis. Yang Mu was about to praise Jia Hao, but when he heard this, an awkward smile appeared on the corner of his mouth, shook his head, turned on the computer on the table, completed today's sign-in, and then handed in yesterday's homework and buried his head in reading. At noon, Yang Mu and Jia Hao got their meals in the school cafeteria and found a conspicuous place to sit down. Jia Hao stood up and looked around for Yuan Chu's figure, and finally saw the sound of him appearing with a plate, and greeted him. Yu Wenchu looked in the direction of the sound and also saw Yang Mu and Jia Hao, lowering his head and walking over with a plate. Yu Wenchu sat down opposite Yang Mu. Jia Hao was busy finishing the food on his plate. Yang Mu looked up at Yu Wenchu and smiled friendly. "What do you want to talk to me about?" Yu Wenchu put his plate in front of Yang Mu and said lightly, but his hands were on his legs, and he had no intention of sitting here and talking to Yang Mu while eating. Seeing him like this, Yang Mu also put down his chopsticks, sorted out his thoughts, and spoke. "Well, although we had some unpleasant things in the past, but today," Yang Mu's tongue moved around in his mouth, and finally said, "I want to help you." Yu Wenchu frowned when he heard Yang Mu's words, looked up at Yang Mu, and asked with a somewhat unhappy expression, "I don't need your help." After speaking, the expression on Yu Wenchu's face became a little impatient, and he was about to get up and take the plate to go somewhere else, but Yang Mu stretched out his hand to stop him, looking straight at him. "I mean, I can offer you a job," Yang Mu said. "I'm not interested in being a thug for others," Yu Wenchu said coldly, and was about to leave. "Hey, what do you mean? Why does our boss want you to be a thug? You can't even beat our boss, so why hire you as a thug?" This is what Jia Hao, who was sitting on the side eating, saw Yu Wenchu's look and stared at Yu Wenchu. As soon as the voice fell, Yu Wenchu's face became very cold, and a look at Jia Hao immediately shut up. Yang Mu pulled Jia Hao over and said to him, "Eat your meal, and you can't shut your mouth even if you eat, right?" Jia Hao saw Yang Mu saying this to him, and immediately lowered his head, not participating in the conversation between the two, and continued to eat his meal. Yang Mu turned his head again and looked at Yu Wenchu with a cold face, sighed, and said with some helplessness, "I'm not asking you to do anything illegal. This is my uncle's auto repair shop. If you're willing to go there, you'll get a base salary of 3,000 Yanhuan coins a month, and you'll get commissions if you go on missions," Yang Mu said calmly, looking at Yu Wenchu in front of him again. After listening to Yang Mu's words, Yu Wenchu's expression gradually relaxed a little, and then he sat down again. He raised his eyes that were originally looking at the plate and looked at Yang Mu, with a hint of hesitation on his face. "This is not disrespectful. I hope you can find something to do, which is better than thinking about committing a crime." Yang Mu looked at the other person's appearance, and remembered what happened to the other person the day before yesterday. An inexplicable feeling rose in his heart, and he said this. But he didn't expect that as soon as Yang Mu's words came out, Yu Wenchu's originally relaxed expression became serious again, and even a little angry. "I don't need you to come here to be a good person, and I don't need anyone to pity me," Yu Wenchu said in a very unhappy tone. Yang Mu realized that what he said just now was not quite right. He was too straightforward. Although Yu Wenchu was poor, he was a person who valued dignity very much. What he said just now must have made him feel uncomfortable. "No, that's not what I meant. I just wanted to help. After all, we are classmates." Yang Mu wanted to defend himself, looking at Yu Wenchu in front of him as sincerely as possible. "You can go and have a look first. I have absolutely no ill intentions." Yu Wenchu didn't say anything, but just looked at Yang Mu coldly, scanning him several times before saying a word. "Okay, will you go and have a look this afternoon?" Yang Mu was relieved to see that the other party agreed, but he realized that he had arranged a job for him. Why did it feel like he was begging the other party to do that job in this atmosphere? Yang Mu touched his nose awkwardly and said, "Then come with me this afternoon. I have talked to Uncle Lei about this matter." Yu Wenchu nodded, said nothing, picked up the plate and left. What kind of person is this? He didn't even say thank you. Jia Hao saw Yu Wenchu leave, pouted and complained, and then said to Yang Mu, "Boss, what are you doing? Why are you arranging a job for him? This guy has harmed Dulan's family." Yang Mu turned his head and looked at Jia Hao, and said, "You can't say that. This guy is not bad by nature. He is just forced by the situation, isn't it true? Such a talent can have a brighter future. Why let a blank piece of paper be stained in vain? Such a genius, as long as he can walk on the right path, at least he can contribute his own strength to the human army in the future, which can be regarded as helping him do something." Yang Mu took a deep breath, picked up the bowl and chopsticks, and continued to eat lunch. Jia Hao next to him was confused, with a somewhat indignant expression on his face. He really didn't understand what his boss was doing. He just sat there and watched Yang Mu eating, and even forgot to wipe the rice grains on his mouth. Chapter 48 Work. After class in the afternoon, Yang Mu and Jia Hao waited for Yu Wenqiu at the school gate, and the three of them went to Uncle A's car repair shop together. Along the way, the three of them didn't talk much, just walked forward silently. When they came to Shangwu Mechanical Maintenance Department, as soon as they walked in, waves of heat surged out and hit Yang Mu and the other two, so they had to retreat quickly. Lei Shangwu took a big job today, helping two entertainment mechas replace their power limbs. Now he was debugging the auxiliary engine of the mecha in the big room behind the store, so the air in the whole store was hot. Yang Mu walked in and ran over to greet Lei Shangwu, who was standing inside. "Uncle A, the person I told you about this morning is here." Yang Mu patted Lei Shangwu, who was directing the debugging. Lei Shangwu turned his head and saw that it was Yang Mu, and turned his head with some confusion. The noise of the engine in the debugging room was too loud, so Yang Mu had to lean over to Lei Shangwu's ear and speak loudly. "Okay. You guys go outside first. It's too noisy here." Lei Shangwu followed Yang Mu out and closed the soundproof door of the room. "Is that the young man?" Lei Shangwu asked Yang Mu after he came out to the maintenance room. Lei Shangwu recognized Jia Hao, so he immediately looked at the blonde boy next to him. "Yu Wenqiu." Yang Mu nodded and said to Lei Shangwu, "Uncle A, he is the Yu Wenqiu I told you about this morning. He still has a second-level physique." "Uncle, where do you think he should be arranged?" Yu Wenqiu stood aside, watching Yang Mu talking to the tall and strong man in front of him. He glanced at the rather large store and smelled the faint smell of lubricant in the air. Instead of showing a trace of disgust in his eyes, he showed a very curious expression. Lei Shangwu nodded, walked straight to Yu Wenqiu, looked at Yu Wenqiu again, and said, "Young man, what skills do you have? If not, you can be an apprentice. You have free time and 1,500 yuan a month with food and accommodation." Yu Wenqiu frowned when he heard this, but did not speak. He glanced at Yang Mu. Yang Mu heard Uncle Lei's words, which were different from what he asked in the morning. He immediately pulled Lei Shangwu aside and asked, "Uncle Lei, didn't you say 3,000 yuan a month? And there will be commissions for missions?" Lei Shangwu patted the dust on his hands, nodded and said, "Yes, but my standard is that he must know some mechanical things, so that he can get the salary of an ordinary maintenance worker. Although this young man has a second-level physique, if I don't distribute it evenly, I can't explain to other people in the store." Yang Mu frowned. In front of him were the conditions given by his uncle, and behind him was Yu Wenqiu, whom he promised to help. Yang Mu was really a little difficult to decide. But at this time, Yu Wenqiu, who was standing next to him, spoke up and said to Lei Shangwu, "I know basic mechanical maintenance, and I can learn the rest slowly." As soon as Yu Wenqiu's words came out, Yang Mu's embarrassment was relieved. Lei Shangwu and Yang Mu turned to look at Yu Wenqiu at the same time. Lei Shangwu and Yang Mu looked at each other and were about to say something when another man's rough voice came from behind. "Xiao Mu, why are you here today?" Yang Mu turned his head and saw Chang Feng, who was wearing work clothes, walked out of the workshop. He walked to Yang Mu with a smile on his face and leaned his right elbow on Yang Mu's shoulder. "You kid, you ruined the robotic arm last time, and it hasn't been repaired yet." Looking at Chang Feng laughing and scolding him, Yang Mu could only scratch his head and smile awkwardly. "Did you design the robotic arm that Yang Mu wore last time?" At this time, Yu Wenqiu's voice came, with some surprise. Chang Feng certainly noticed this unfamiliar face, raised his eyebrows, but turned to ask Yang Mu, "Xiao Mu, who is this guy?" Yang Mu could only explain again. "Oh, he knows some basic mechanical maintenance." "What do you think, Lei?" After listening to Yang Mu's explanation, Chang Feng was a little surprised that this kid actually introduced jobs to others. He immediately turned to ask Lei Shangwu for his opinion. "How about this, Lao Chang? You take this boy to try his skills. If he works, he will be a part-time maintenance worker in the future. If not, he can only be an apprentice." Lei Shangwu immediately gave his own solution. Chang Feng nodded and asked Yu Wenqiu to follow him and to try his skills. Yang Mu had to sit in the office next to him with Lei Shangwu and Jia Hao. "Xiao Mu, do you think this guy is really that talented?" Lei Shangwu looked at Yu Wenqiu, who went in and turned to ask Yang Mu. "Well, just because he is the same age as me and has a second-level physique, it's not simple." Yang Mu took the water handed over by Uncle A and nodded. "And he seems to be about to reach the third level of physique." Lei Shangwu's movements paused, he took a breath, looked at Yang Mu in surprise, then turned his head to look at Yu Wenqiu a few times, and said, "Really? If that's the case, then he's really a genius." But he is so talented, and you said he was repeating a grade. Such a talent should have been recruited into the army long ago. Yang Mu listened to Lei Shengwu's words and shook his head silently. Seeing this, Lei Shengwu glanced at Yang Mu, a smile on his face, and said, "Little Mu, do you say you have a first-level physique now? Do you want to improve it too?" "Uncle has a way." Yang Mu glanced at Lei Shengwu, showed a helpless smile, and said, "Uncle, it's definitely not possible now. Let's wait until you pass the college entrance examination. It's not too late to talk about it then." Lei Shengwu pondered for a moment, and felt that what Yang Mu said made sense. He nodded, and said nothing more. Instead, he turned around and asked about Jia Hao's business in the store, and persuaded Jia Hao to follow him to repair blood machinery, which could also help him lose weight. About 15 minutes later, Chang Feng came out of the store with Yu Wenqiu, smiling, and looked at Yang Mu and Lei Shengwu. "Old Lei, this young man is good. He will definitely be a good pilot after a few years of training." "Oh?" Lei Shengwu was a little surprised. Although this boy's physical ability is stronger than ordinary people, he didn't expect that he could catch the eye of Chang Feng, a senior pilot. It seems that he is really capable. Lei Shengwu turned his head and asked curiously, "Young man, oh, your name is Yu Wenqiu, where did you learn this skill?" Yu Wenqiu didn't hide it and said directly, "My father was also a mechanic. He taught me all these." Lei Shengwu was interested and asked immediately, "Oh? Then I wonder what your father is doing now." Hearing this, Yu Wenqiu lowered his head and said, "My father is in poor health and has been unemployed at home." Lei Shengwu saw the other party's lost expression and turned his head to look at Yang Mu, but Yang Mu shook his head. It was obvious that Lei Shengwu wanted to recruit Yu Wenhong, but he had to ask Yu Wenqiu. Considering his father's health, he probably wouldn't let him do this. Lei Shengwu finally held back and didn't ask. He just smiled and said, "Then let's do this. You will come here to work as a maintenance worker. On school days, you will work from the afternoon after class to 10 p.m. On weekends, you will work from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. Food and accommodation are provided, and there is a 2-hour break at noon." Yu Wenqiu nodded and agreed when he heard this condition. "Okay, old Chang, take him to go through the formalities. He is already an adult. Remember to upload the information," Lei Shengwu said to Chang Feng, and Chang Feng responded and took Yu Wenqiu to go through the formalities. 10 minutes later, Yu Wenqiu and Yang Mu and Jia Hao, who came out of the store together, separated at an intersection. Yu Wenqiu stopped and looked at Yang Mu. At this time, the expression on his face became much gentler, and he said, "Yang Mu, thank you so much for this time. Of course, my eldest brother is so righteous." Jia Hao, who was standing next to him, laughed and said. Yang Mu also smiled and said, "It's okay, classmates, help each other." Yu Wenqiu also pursed his lips, said nothing, and nodded heavily. "Okay, that's it, it's quite late, it's time to go back," Yang Mu said with a smile, said hello and walked to the other side with Jia Hao. Suddenly, Yu Wenqiu's voice came from behind Yang Mu. Yang Mu stopped and looked back at Yu Wenqiu, who was standing there. "Although you helped me, the bet I made with you last time still counts." Yang Mu was speechless, and said with relief, "Okay, I will naturally fight with you when the time comes. I'm leaving first." Looking at the back of Yang Mu riding away on a bicycle, the setting sun slowly lengthened Yu Wenqiu's shadow. Yu Wenqiu stood there in a daze, looking at the direction where Yang Mu left, and looked for a long time. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 49, Cam reappears. Time flies, and in the blink of an eye it is June with the scent of jasmine. In May, Yang Mu experienced some things, but at the same time he was also working hard to prepare for the upcoming college entrance examination. It is worth mentioning that in mid-May, the Aquamarine Army successfully destroyed a Bloodskull Brotherhood hideout in the asteroid belt outside Aquamarine through intelligence reports, and successfully captured a small leader. The news of the successful encirclement and suppression was widely reported on Aquamarine, and the people cheered. Yang Mu was a little relieved when he learned the news, and he also tried to send an anonymous email to the government about a possible Bloodskull stronghold in the market. Because he did not find any abnormalities in the market during his previous secret investigation of the market, and he had no good way to pass on the news. Yang Mu certainly thought of Yan Shenfu, but the old man with sharp eyes only wanted him to go to the Kunlun college he recommended. Moreover, if he did this once, he could probably attribute it to coincidence, but if he did it again and again, Yan Shenfu, who had lived for decades, would definitely find something different. How would he justify himself at that time? Yang Mu didn't dare to think about it. So in the end, all this could only be left unresolved. The approaching college entrance examination also forced Yang Mu to put aside all the trivial matters and concentrate on studying. However, Yang Mu didn't need to study in the classroom today. At this moment, he was walking towards the school's gymnasium. Not only that, tens of thousands of people in the whole school were walking towards the gymnasium. Today, the school invited a famous motivational master to cheer up the senior students of Halen No. 1 Middle School and relieve everyone's fatigue from long-term intense study. Although Yang Mu didn't want to go, under the strong request of the class teacher, he could only walk there with Jia Hao. Arriving at the gymnasium, Yang Mu did not expect that many students had already gathered there. Not only that, Yang Mu also saw many drone cameras floating in the air, and the large screen hanging on the rostrum was being debugged, which seemed to be used later. Such a scene made Jia Hao stunned, but Yang Mu smiled and shook his head. He had seen such a scene once in his previous life, so he was not surprised. Sitting in his class, Yang Mu looked around and saw that the entire gymnasium was almost full of people. On the rostrum, a group of school leaders had already taken their seats. The Dean of Teaching presided over the event and warmly welcomed the famous motivational master France. Then Yang Mu saw a middle-aged man in that row of seats stand up, revealing a gentle smile and waving to the students in the field. "Hello, students. Thank you for taking the time to come and listen to my motivational speech. I hope my speech can help you," XXX once said. The middle-aged man on the rostrum had a fair complexion and was explaining one truth after another to everyone with great emotion, but Yang Mu, who was sitting in the audience, could not hear a word. He took out a small notebook from his pocket and began to recite the knowledge points on it. Sir, you can't go up here." At this moment, a voice came from the right behind Yang Mu. Yang Mu turned his head and looked in the direction of the voice. He saw that a school staff member was blocking the way of a man wearing a hooded sweatshirt. Behind the staff member was a viewing ladder that led directly to the highest viewing platform in the entire gymnasium, but it was now completely closed. The man in the hat was also silent. After hearing the words of the staff member, he did not force his way in. He turned his head and walked to the side after saying "Oh." Yang Mu took a look at the man and became a little interested. The man's clothes were obviously not those of a schoolmate, but he didn't look like he had come by mistake. However, after being stopped by the staff, he didn't even say sorry, but walked directly to the exit next to him with his head down. Yang Mu looked up at the observation ladder and the observation deck on the roof of the gymnasium, and then looked at the exit that the man had walked out of. Yang Mu frowned slightly, and his military acumen made him realize that something was wrong. The man seemed to have another purpose, and it was not the wrong place as he had imagined. Although he couldn't go to the observation deck through the observation ladder, Yang Mu also knew that there were 2 walking stairs in the gymnasium, and the exit that the other party was going out of was obviously close to a staircase. Yang Mu immediately stood up, told Jia Hao that he was going to the toilet, and then followed him out of that exit. Just after coming out of that exit, Yang Mu saw a figure turn right and really walk towards the stairs leading to the observation deck. This was even more wrong, and Yang Mu followed carefully forward. After following up, Yang Mu, who was approaching quietly, heard a slight movement. A slight cutting sound came, and Yang Mu carefully poked his head out, only to see that the unidentified man was holding a small electric saw and cutting the door lock. This guy really wanted to enter the observation deck. Then there must be some ulterior motive. Yang Mu's heart was suddenly alarmed, and he was about to go downstairs slowly to notify the school security, but his eyes suddenly swept across the face of the man under the coat. It turned out to be the tattooed man. Yang Mu's heart was extremely horrified, and he couldn't help but open his mouth and eyes wide, forcing himself to calm down, slowly moving down step by step, and then quickly ran towards the security department. The other party was a Bloodskull man, and now he appeared here. There must be a big problem. 5 minutes later, Yang Mu and several security guards from the security department ran up the stairs and reached the observation deck on the top of the building. At this time, The door on the observation deck was already open, and Yang Mu rushed in, but there was no one inside. The guy seemed to have escaped. The head of the security department was furious and hurriedly urged the security guard next to him to notify the school leaders and retrieve the surveillance footage at that time. Yang Mu walked forward with a face full of doubts, walked to the glass window of the observation deck, looked down, and saw the scene in the entire gymnasium. There were many people below, shouting slogans under the encouragement of the motivational master France. Did that guy leave from here? What on earth does the other party want to do here? Is he trying to do something to the students in the gymnasium? Yang Mu's heart was full of doubts. And at this time the captain of the security team next to him came forward and asked Yang Mu about the situation at that time. Yang Mu then carefully recounted the situation at that time, but added some of his own thoughts at the end. Although of course he couldn't tell him directly that the other party was the Blood Skull, because that would cause trouble for him, but Yang Mu still said something else in a roundabout way, which attracted the attention of the security captain. For example, whether the other party came here at this time to harm the students, whether there would be bombs or something. Yang Mu's words worked. The security captain's expression turned serious, and he immediately notified the police. Yang Mu, on the other hand, left after reporting his class name. What exactly did the other party want to do? Did the other party find out that he was following him? So he cancelled the action he wanted to take? Yang Mu went down from the observation deck in confusion, and didn't notice that on the podium in the gymnasium below, a pair of eyes were staring at Yang Mu, staring at the observation deck where Yang Mu was standing. The owner of this pair of eyes was France, who was giving a passionate speech on the podium. Please collect and vote. Chapter 50 College Entrance Examination. The gymnasium incident was finally left unresolved, because the police did not find any explosives or other strange things in the gymnasium, and finally it could only be treated as a theft. And because Yang Mu reported the situation in time, the school did not suffer any other losses except for the smart door lock. In the end, he was praised by the school leaders, which caught Yang Mu off guard and embarrassed that he was being watched by the whole class. However, this incident only became an episode before the college entrance examination. Time passed quickly. On June 7th, the college entrance examination officially arrived. Yang Mu, like the senior high school students on Halen Star and PAJR, stepped onto the battlefield of the college entrance examination and fought hard for his future destiny. The examination lasted for 2 days in total, and the subjects were Chinese studies, applied mathematics, engineering machinery, basic physics, practical chemistry, foreign languages and social sciences. The 2-day examination made the entire Halen city run at full capacity, opened up a green channel exclusively for college entrance examination students, provided the most comprehensive services for candidates, and helped candidates complete the examination smoothly. It is said that such a tradition has been accustomed since the Earth Age. It is the most concerned thing for the whole country besides war and disasters, and it is the most important thing for all students' families. The 2-day exam is not long. It is very fast for Yang Mu who is taking the exam, but it is torture for Yang Ma and Uncle Lei who are waiting outside. Because of Yang Mu's 2-day exam, Lei Ming and Lei Hong, who are 8 or 9 years old, can only walk to school by themselves these 2 days. Uncle Lei also handed over the store's affairs to Cheng Feng to take care of, and was responsible for Yang Mu's going to and from school. Yang Ma racked her brains to make all kinds of delicious food, planned Yang Mu's various work and rest plans, and tried her best to ensure Yang Mu's diet and rest. However, these are not things that Yang Mu needs to care about in the examination room. In this exam, Yang Mu only needs to care about how to get better scores. Among all the exam subjects, the ones that are difficult for Yang Mu are Chinese studies and social sciences. The rest of the exam subjects have their own years of experience to support them, and with their own review during this period, they can all achieve very good results. But for this kind of thing that focuses on textuality and extensive literary reading, Yang Mu is a little bit behind. At least after this period of cramming, Yang Mu has not made very good progress. In the end, he had to compromise and make up for the loss of points in weak subjects by improving the scores of subjects he is good at. Finally, the 2-day exam came to an end. After the last social science exam, Yang Mu packed up his things and walked out of the exam room easily. After these 2 days of exams, at least Yang Mu has been able to estimate a rough score. There is no problem with ordinary first-level colleges and universities. The top schools will depend on his luck. As for which school to choose in the end, that is a matter after the scores are released. I just don't know how Chen K did in the exam, and whether he can go to the same school with her. With such an imagination, Yang Mu took his things and slowly walked out of the school gate. Yang Ma, who was standing at the school gate, immediately found Yang Mu with her sharp eyes and waved to let Yang Mu go. Yang Mu walked over and found that not only Yang Ma and Uncle Lei were standing next to him, but Jiao Hao's family was also standing here, but Jiao Hao had not come out at this time. Xiao Mu, how did you do in the exam? Yang's mother, who was standing by, asked with concern. But Uncle Lei, who was standing by, interrupted Yang's mother's question and said, how can you ask a child this? Don't worry about it after the exam. Yes, your Uncle Jia thinks so too. Your father promised to treat our two families to a big dinner at Tenshin Pavilion tonight. Let's not worry about these things for now. Uncle Jia, who was chubby and had narrowed his eyes when he smiled, also came forward and patted Yang Mu's shoulder and said with a smile. Yang Mu also smiled and nodded, turning his head to look in the direction of the school gate. The mouse hasn't come out yet. As soon as Yang Mu finished speaking, the figure of the fat man appeared at the school gate, but he looked a little serious. Does Jiao Hao think he didn't do well in the exam? Xiao Hao, here. Come here. Jia's mother also recognized her baby at the first time and shouted immediately. When Jiao Hao saw it, the expression on his face became a little relaxed and he walked over quickly. Xiao Hao, how did you do in the exam? Jia's father asked with concern at this time. Jiao Hao shrugged and said, it should be okay, but I may have some confusion in my memory of some knowledge points, and I am not sure about a few questions. Not sure. Jia's father's eyes widened at this time, looking at Jiao Hao. I told you to recite more books, but you just ate. Jia's father's attitude of scolding his son on the spot surprised Yang Mu. Did his uncle just say not to care about the grades? Why now? Oh, okay, the exam is over. What's the point of saying these? Uncle Lei came out to smooth things over. Jiao Hao looked at Yang Mu helplessly and gave Yang Mu an expression of what can I say. Yang Mu walked to Jiao Hao, patted his shoulder, and gave him a look of trust. Okay, since our two families are out, let's go. Let's go eat together. I'll pay for tonight's expenses. Uncle Lei saw Jiao Hao coming out, so he put his arm around Jiao Hao's father's shoulder and said, Old Jia, you didn't agree to drink with you last time, but you can't refuse today anyway. Yang's mother also stood aside and responded. Both Jia's father and mother were cheerful people. They were still scolding their son the moment before, but now all their tempers disappeared and they nodded decisively in agreement. Okay, I'll drink with you tonight, Jia's father replied. Several people got on their own floating cars and drove to the place they had booked for dinner. At the gathering of the two families, everyone was enthusiastic. Even Yang Mu and Jiao Hao were forced to drink a few glasses of wine. Uncle Lei and Jia's father were playing finger-guessing games, while Yang's mother and Jia's mother were talking about the children's future. Lei Ming and Lei Hong were holding cups and watching the cartoons on the floating TV with Jiao Hao's sister, who was in her early teens. The whole room was very lively. Yang Mu also participated in the topic from time to time, but at this moment, his watch suddenly vibrated. Yang Mu opened it and saw that it was a message from Chen K. He looked up at the people at the table and found that they didn't notice him, so he clicked it to take a look. Do you have time? Let's go out for a walk together. This short sentence immediately made Yang Mu's slight drunkenness dissipate. He replied with a message of okay, where shall we meet? Yang Mu used the excuse that a classmate was looking for him for something, and went out under everyone's somewhat puzzled eyes. However, after Yang Mu went out, Jiao Hao went and said something about what Yang Mu's so-called classmate was looking for him, which changed the expressions of Lei Shengwu and Yang Ma at the table. At this moment, on a two-story building in the big market of Heilin City, a man with a broad face was sitting at a table in the room, looking at the picture in front of him, tapping the table with his fingers. The sound became louder and louder, and his slightly frowned brows showed his anxious mood at the moment. This person was France, the famous motivational teacher who was still giving a speech at Heilin No. 1 Middle School a few days ago, but behind this, he had another identity, that is, the actual leader of the Blood Skull. Perhaps no one has ever thought that the leader of this powerful star pirate organization that has caused great trouble to Heilin Star and the surrounding planets is actually on Heilin Star at this moment. Is that all the information? France asked in a deep voice, and standing in front of him was Cam. France had been lurking on Aquamarine for the past few months just to find out the situation of a certain target, but the photo on the table now made France very dissatisfied. Yes, Aquamarine's defense against this thing is too strong, so we can only do this for the time being, Cam said respectfully. But he immediately seemed to remember something and asked, Chief, when will we start? France looked up at Cam, and he didn't feel unhappy about the loyal subordinate's talkativeness, but just said, no hurry, take another photo, and make sure it's the clearest. Yes, seeing that his boss didn't seem to want to say it, Cam didn't ask and responded immediately. In fact, Cam knew a little about all these actions. He knew that the leader was willing to risk the fate of the entire Blood Skull for such a thing, and he also sent all the members to participate in this action. The military advisor, the second in command, and the leader's wife had all started to move out several months ago and disappeared. What Cam knew was that the leader in front of him was setting up a big plan that could shake the world. The matter of the Green Ghost Gang was one step, leaking all kinds of information, and even letting some brothers die. Everything he did now was a prelude. Camu could even imagine what kind of bloody storm would be set off on the Aquamarine Star. When this plan reached the last step, the room fell silent again. Camu stood silently aside, and France's index finger was still tapping on the table, his eyes staring at the picture in front of him. A few rays of light flashed in his eyes, and I don't know what he was thinking about. Please collect and vote. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.